In the shadowy alleys of New Atlantis, Dr. Kaija Vessia huddled over a crumpled data slate, fingers flying across the touchscreen as she pored over the cryptic encryption patterns embedded within the long-lost research files recovered from the fabled Erebus station, mysterious pulses and resonance frequencies that held the potential to rewrite the universe's harmony. The echoes of an ancient theorem murmured at the edge of her consciousness, a symphony threatening to expose the hidden architecture beneath the fabric of space-time itself. She breathed deeply through the acrid haze, a habit inherited from her tumultuous youth. Vessia's eyes darted up as boots scuffled toward her hiding spot. A muffled growl tailed by an armored companion, Helios, as his shadowy features emerged from the gloom. "What we seek is a map, not a myth," he reminded her, crouching beside the makeshift workstation. "Resonant frequencies don't follow patterns yet to be understood. We're chasing ghosts from centuries past." The frustration etched in Kaija's voice was mirrored in her tense posture, though Helios knew better than to pry deeper into her scientific anguish. Their orders remained paramount: the retrieval and delivery of the encoded knowledge to Commander Ryder in the secret underground base. "The encrypted pulse pattern resembles a call," he argued, scanning the narrow passageway. He had witnessed Kaija's obsessive focus often enough, when she was on the verge of an epiphany. A flash of insight danced on her face, as if the missing piece tumbled into place with a metallic clink. The relic, its ancient power core, now safely concealed beneath her armament-enhanced jacket. An SOS? Impossible! For all they knew, everyone connected to Erebus lay incinerated amidst the quantum debris. Ryder must have fabricated this fool's errand in desperation or ignorance, a task suited for the reckless than vessel operatives like themselves. Helios leaned closer and peered through spectacles darkened by the dim glow of flickering holo ads advertising dubious tech enhancements. The coordinates were cryptic at best, resembling astronomical positions on a forgotten celestial compass. Vessia's thoughts had taken another turn. The hidden pattern suddenly resonated in her mind, each component and its intricate relationship weaving anew within the vast cosmological tapestry as they traversed a maze of tunnels beneath the city while fleeing those hell-bent on control. It is neither a beacon nor an SO, a harmonic signature echoing a reality forgotten and a potential future. Her eyes were ablaze once more. Silence hung heavy before he prompted, "What would you have us do then?" In the stillness, Kaija's gaze drifted to Helios's modified mech suit and back again. Time was not their ally in this city, consumed by remnants of an ancient war, a conflict they unwittingly fueled with every escaped artifact smuggled out. To Ryder, she tapped her slate rapidly, the Erebus core's containment chamber held more than nuclear waste. I wager a device, perhaps the keystone to bridging realities. I've isolated a harmonic frequency. Its echo holds potential. Helios nodded to himself before keying the encrypted message manually, as if this ritual were not his normal duty. The vessel received Ryder's acknowledgement, a single pulse in response that pierced through the subterranean comms array. It bore an uncanny resemblance to the resonant frequencies detected at Erebus. Their destination had been confirmed, an abandoned observatory on the periphery, the ancient equipment within, conceivably a gateway capable of hearing celestial calls, whispers from a silent multiverse. As they converged on their new objective amidst the decaying skyscrapers of New Atlantis, Vessia navigated through shadows, a fusion of expertise and instinct honed by countless covert missions. Dilapidated steel behemoths breached the observatory threshold with an eerie resonance that harmonized with echoes of Kaija's research, to the point it became pulse-pounding music. The thrumming beneath their feet, in tandem with the sibilant crackling of malfunctioned power relays and a lone pulsing console. The structure was far from abandoned, instead, guarded by a well-placed faction of vessel defectors turned extremists. Ryder stood atop their makeshift command tower, the skeletal remains of an ancient dome amidst a sprawling park, overlooking the city, a shade darker than usual, under unrelenting toxic smog. "Your presence here seals your fate with the program." The commander motioned them forward, eyes betraying a rare vulnerability beneath his grizzled facade. "Or our freedom." Within moments, Kaija held the key device, plucked from oblivion remnants. She hesitated, contemplating her newfound obsession versus their mission objectives in a universe fraught by cosmic turbulence. Vessel operatives caught between factions warring to command a chaotic era following Erebus's collapse. A hum of excitement and fear mingled at her core as her eyes locked with Ryder, a silent agreement. She activated it. An eerie silence that pierced ears not accustomed took hold, the device resonating with cosmic whispers. Amidst the stillness, Helios voiced his concern. Surety they weren't being played, that one catastrophic note drawing worlds closer. Kaija's thoughts wove toward theories she dared not voice aloud yet. A symphony of a dozen possibilities within a singularity waiting to unfurl. A flicker of luminescent energy illuminated their gathering space, a breach of sorts, the resonance intensifying, walls groaning under an unseen pressure as dimensions briefly brushed against one another, casting ethereal silhouettes across cracked concrete. Light spilled forth, bathing the ruins in celestial beauty amidst a crescendo of frequencies and blinding radiance before stabilizing into a localized distortion, a doorway flung wide into Erebus's heart. Ryder, stoic beyond expectation, ordered them through first. Kaija followed with her own machinations in tow. Helios secured their rear as they ventured toward a colossal chamber, the pulsing heart of celestial navigation, a device from an era long lost in cosmic chaos. It glimmered with the intensity of a new sun, yet remained shrouded by swirling particles caught in transition. Kaija paused on the threshold, breath synchronizing at the sight that greeted them. The artifact, Erebus Station's quantum core, radiated luminosity and an otherworldly energy that was either creation or cataclysmic rebirth. Her curiosity outshone any fear. The data held truths the vessel, once sworn to protect science, not secrets, might need against those seeking dominance in this new tempest. Ryder addressed it with characteristic brevity before turning toward Kaija, the weight of responsibility etched into his features. Helios stood watchfully behind. Reconfigure resonance chambers, ensure structural integrity, and make it so, an aide's voice carried on internal comms. The unspoken words still hung in air. Vessia didn't look up as she entered cryptic commands. The room reverberated with each input while they awaited further directive, their actions shaping destiny through calculated leaps of faith within unfathomable boundaries. Her obsession for an artifact, now a beacon to Ryder's mission, perhaps both. A quiet certainty about that fateful leap settled within her. The echoes Kaija sought bore more gravity than any weapon or research. It could bridge worlds, the ultimate discovery, reality's missing cadence. In the heart of Erebus' quantum crucible, Vessia spoke her truth aloud, a plea mingling with prayers, theories, and the ever-waning sound of an unfelt universe. Helios glanced up to her through slanted shades. Ryder, too. They each knew, now that it came down to this silent frequency, this harmonic signature, what it could become or destroy. Amidst the resonant chaos engulfing their world, a fleeting glimpse was offered before chaos reasserted, their reality's integrity as vulnerable as a lost melody seeking harmonization. Vessia stood tall, a beacon among echoes of what had been lost to an alternate timeline, a cosmic whisperer of hope or cataclysmic error, whom others chased to reshape the universe in silence. And yet she walked amidst this maelstrom now, the pulse pounding with determination toward a future uncertain. Her destiny, entwined within countless silences left untuned, pulsed with possibilities at her fingertips, theirs an eternal cadence. In the heart of their besieged reality, Kaija felt called to hear it all, as though the first note in symphony, their journey a new composition among a fractured galaxy, a tale of lost science and humanity's quest. The resonance reverberated as Kaija stepped across the threshold of Erebus's quantum crucible, a symphony that seemed to emanate from her very being, the celestial music now woven with determination. Ryder and Helios stood watchful behind her, guardians of a discovery poised between creation or cataclysm. Configuration complete, Captain. The aide's voice crackled in their comms as the device pulsed in Kaija's grip, casting shimmering light across their weathered faces. Ryder turned to face his operatives, features set with steel determination. Captain Ryder, out. The air vibrated with anticipation and potential destruction, yet no command was given. A nod from their leader echoed the silent order they had waited for. With calculated purpose, Helios swept back their surroundings, clearing a path while Ryder strode forward with measured steps, leaving an untethered future in his wake. The metal grated beneath Ryder's palm as he claimed custody of the artifact, radiating light and energy that eclipsed even Erebus's fated demise. "Reinstate shields," the order crackled with renewed urgency. "We cannot remain here." "It may not be wise to relinquish this technology without exploring its full extent," she countered. Ryder's stance faltered for a moment before the unspoken agreement. Erebus would stay, and they their mission begin anew. A symphony of possibilities echoed within her. They stood at the threshold between worlds, ears ringing with anticipation. Heated whispers of a reality once lost surged through Kaija's form as her gaze fell upon the artifact. Helios shifted guard duties with his brother's absence, silently honoring both and preparing an unpredictable future, his eyes tracing lines of intricate machines amidst the chamber's ruin. A hum of energy pulsed, 1,000 melodies clamoring for balance, a call only she could answer. "Ma'am, we should retreat," Ryder's tone carried beneath the maelstrom as reality strained against its integrity, his voice an anchor to her sanity. "We can't linger. Our mission isn't finished." The silence between them was palpable. It echoed with unspoken truths and the hum of worlds yet unnamed. The chamber heaved as Erebus re-established harmony within itself, cosmic rhythms synchronized with Kaija's very nature. Helios secured a last check on their perimeter before Ryder spoke. "Time moves. We'll unravel these whispers in the world we once knew." Unending stars illuminated the void where structures met dust. A new era of vessel operatives was forged. "We stand at history's doorstep," Ryder finished aloud for any lingering doubts that dared linger. Echoes of potential resounded. Outside lay the chaos they had set into motion, worlds whispering possibilities to their arrival. A silent promise hung in air, theirs to ensure this reborn world found a harmony where humanity was the dominant melody. Ryder's hand brushed the artifact softly as it settled his grip. The device pulsed with an untamed beauty, radiating its true self without the distortion of other realities. Humanity may hold the score. "Our reality," he continued to lead, "can find unity." Kaija's breath came in sync with his words, a call echoing deep within their shared history. Erebus's pulsing lights enveloped them before receding along the corridor. A beacon beckoned, drawing their first mission objective clear: find the missing components of this symphony. Ryder stepped forward, each step carrying weight, reality wobbling amidst forces yet unrealized, theirs to bridge it home. This was Kaija's melody, and they were its conductor now, a world's fate in her hands, a single pulse among an unfolding cosmos. He led on toward the unknown heart of Erebus's ruin. They could not afford hesitation beneath Erebus's rebirth. Swept by the force of their destination, spheres of matter danced as they moved. Kaija's grip reflexively strengthened around the object, preparing for whatever lay ahead. The heart of what Lyra had sought to rekindle, a symphony in silence. She had heard this, envisioned it, and only she felt the cosmos respond. The chamber pulsed with them, humans finding solace in a melody forgotten but remembered, the pulse resonant even at this great distance. Helios walked point, a path illuminated by swirling matter that swirled behind Ryder, each step echoing their reality amidst Erebus's birth pangs. "I have the readouts," he shared, drawing a sharp breath as they neared an entry door layered in darkness, a hidden nexus. New worlds, or the next silent pulse awaited, silent serenades yet to come. With hands entwined, Ryder activated a lock. The resonance chamber's pulsation surged, echoes that now carried the harmony of possibilities. A world unfurled before them, reality rebalancing in concordance, a symphony unspun amid vast cosmic discord. Helios? This was their dawn and challenge. As they stepped into its light, Erebus' heart reverberated. A new heartbeat joined the eternal song. They advanced with Ryder, leading at center stage. Helios, vigilante of past melodies, while she, the keeper of future notes, Kaija's hand squeezed around the artifact, a nod to Lyra, now among endless worlds. In reality's rebirth, what had come before was a memory in their hands, the score rewritten for a universe listening. Silence welcomed their arrival. It was time to find balance between the celestial and human. Theirs, an uncertain song, but harmonious melody sought, a new creation, where Erebus's pulse sang of balance amid chaos, a future with endless symphonies. No words spoke them as they stepped forward, only breath synchronized and purpose-driven. Upon entering, Ryder's posture said, "We begin." This mission was not just Erebus. They'd found the missing cord, a beacon born from catastrophe in this forgotten era's dawn. An untroubled hum echoed throughout, the resonance of balance sought. "We must find those responsible," the captain added, ushering them into a realm beyond humanity's reckoning. The artifact felt lighter with each step toward their mission, reality shifting as they pressed onward. A new symphony had been initiated. Ryder's presence steadied her. The hum grew and grew, the sound pulsed forward and out. The heart of Erebus, an untamed potential. This was their world now, their quest in harmony. A light flickered ahead, then another. The silence began to dissipate. There they stood, surveying a canvas blanketed with light and shadow, a tale awaiting the melody of balance. Among those hued orbs, their footsteps found purpose. Kaija looked upon an indescribable landscape, and it seemed to pulse with the same rhythm that had once lived within her. It stirred memory in echoes. Lyra's final note resounded without a whisper as their world sang, ushered into balance by a new melody, a song of resilience in the face of the unknown. They ventured forth and toward an uncertain future where silent serenades yearned to dance. Their footsteps resonated through untold worlds, a tale intertwined with unseen chords. With eyes upon this canvas so vast, yet so fragile, Kaija knew they had to move forward, even if unspoken. Her hand reflexively tightened around the device, Lyra's essence now part of their hearts, beating in syncopated rhythm as they began their journey, a single beat amidst eternal music. Their purpose echoed through reality, a new melody was born. For once the heart raced toward another song, a world alive amidst cosmic noise. The sound grew as Ryder gave direction with measured intent. Echoes of Lyra's quest for balance now sang between them. A light flickered beneath. Shadowy forms danced around this dawn's pulse, and though unspoken, her journey became his, a silent accompaniment in the rebirth they pursued, the heart of Erebus alive. A world anew awaited their footsteps. Upon nearing it, Ryder raised each arm. Erebus pulsed once before plunging them into an eternal score, where silent serenades yearned for dance. It had begun, a symphony, waiting in silence, balance sought, and harmonies echoes as they walked toward what was to come, their feet on a path carved by Lyra's final breath, cords Kaija hoped to bind. In unity, their footsteps became one step closer to what humanity might be, a song yet unscored. Silent serenades beckoned the dance of an eternity, yet born among endless starlight. In this quietude a journey had begun, where discord sought to find unity, and they were its heart. Theirs echoed, Erebus, pulse now in their chest. As they stepped forward with Ryder at their center stage, the world before Kaija seemed to come alive in syncopated rhythm, humming with the harmony sought by Lyra's elusive melody. The landscape stretched far into the depths of an ever-expanding canvas, where shadows and light danced amidst stars that sang a song yet unplayed, awaiting their purpose. Unspoken words of intent radiated from both companions as they ventured toward the uncharted dance of existence, united under dawn's pulsing heartbeat. The pulse surged forward, carrying the memories of what would be, the symphony unscored, their steps echoing in reverence for Lyra, who gave life to this moment. Through shadows and light, the melody beckoned, where discord sought unity with a new creation. What was left unplayed? Ryder murmured softly to her companion before they embarked toward an indescribable canvas of wonder awaiting silent serenades. Within them found harmony. Each footstep resonated as it did Lyra, but in their hearts, theirs sang louder, ushering the world towards balance. The artifact's pulse began to wane in Kaija's grasp with each step, and her heart, now attuned by love and quest. A new breath met her eyes when they reached a shimmering silhouette that morphed into silhouettes reflecting her image and Ryder's, an eternal symphony born from their combined journey. Harmony was reborn amidst chaos. Their voices echoed in unity for what yet remained to be done. What now? Her gaze met his with understanding, not mere words, but the song they bore to silence amidst eternal discord. Ryder drew a deep breath, while light pulsed forth and shadows receded. They reached new realms together, where balance beckoned, every step a reminder of what was sought in symphony's dawn that yet danced. Their footsteps echoed towards an unknown melody, Ryder his rhythmic pulse, guiding their purpose to serenades silent. The world sang to them as if Lyra whispered secrets through the pulse resonating in harmony and silence. The silent serenade began to embrace a song of hope. Ryder nodded Kaija toward a light she'd seen before but never perceived. A silhouette became reality. New worlds merged with eternal noise. Rebirth sang to their combined hearts, where echoes met their footsteps as they edged closer towards balance's harmonious crescendo. A breath was taken together amidst silence while looking at the artifact, now an ornament of what they bore in a bond. The world before them danced in the silence, a song for human hearts. Upon reaching this sanctuary, Ryder breathed deeper, taking her hand. Kaija squeezed it softly in silent agreement toward what they hoped to score amid eternal cacophony. Eternal song born on their unified breath's journey together. A new creation hummed within, and their purpose echoed with silence. From darkness pulsed harmony. Ryder's step was beat. The final nod from him turned their unity toward an unknown melody, echoing silent serenades that yearned for rhythm in eternal starlight. Eternal song enveloped them as they embraced a silent moment. A story awaited harmony. They walked silently, steps now a dance of what yet danced amid eternal noise, breast to chest and hand grasped, a mission to harmonize discord's melody within new reality begun. There amidst shadows stood figures, a realm beyond comprehension welcomed by silence, reflecting the heartbeat in her heart. There they began. Humanity's quest for unstruck keys sang out in Lyra's silence from eternal song. Upon reaching an oasis in their journey, their eyes clutched as Ryder's grip on Kaija tightened. In silence together, and on a single breath, they edged closer to the harmony's pulse. The world whistled before them. Humanity's quest for balance resonated beyond silence. The void pulsed with silent accompaniment. Each step felt like an act of devotion within an unknown dance. A silent serenade awakened, their purpose echoed through silent serenades. Here was humanity's call amidst eternal score. A breath given to harmony awaited the dancer, and Lyra's silent pulse whispered secrets. An eerie light enveloped them. Their bond sang in silent reverence, each foot a single beat amid cosmic heartbeat. The quiet had them side by side, where chaos yearned for rhythm. Silence gave way to new creation. Ryder moved with grace akin to Alara's melody, walking toward the void amidst eternal celestial hymn, the tale of resilience and Lyra's harmony. In the vast canvas of this rebirth, sudden darkness merged into silence. The pulsing rhythm seemed familiar while Ryder stood before figures. Humanity now listened towards their creation. Their heartbeat awaited accompaniment through silent symphony. Their journey was one towards silence, Eldorian's dawn, where Lyra's note had played a silent serenade for stars still dancing from the void. He took her hand and gave the command. Silence met his intent. A silent whisper of unplayed keys waited. The heartbeats echoed across eternal creation. With every step, each breath an act to quiet discord's melody amid what dawned, Lyra's silence was now silent harmony. A light beckoned. His embrace held their purpose. New creations and silent serenade resonated within this cosmic heartbeat. His gaze met hers. They embarked when he parted the veil. A dance of two echoed within an unfamiliar beat. A symphony amidst eternal noise sang from Alara's breath toward Lyra's harmonized silence. In a shared moment, Ryder took her hand toward a creation where hearts synchronized. Every step was silent intent in melody yet to come. Here began humanity's song amidst infinite potential. The silence pulsed with an invitation. New dawn had dawned. The world embraced Kaija, a realm so vast. Silence gave way to what would be human heartbeats, echoing eternal rhythm. He offered her hand toward a light as Ryder led to those who awaited, towards an unvoiced note, toward new beginnings in Lyra's harmonious embrace amidst chaos. A single breath carried them forward together into the vastness. New worlds were silent serenades that welcomed Kaija's heartbeats towards eternal resonance. He turned from her in a silent understanding, a journey born of two in an unknown dance. Silence was echoed within. They walked to where it sang from Lyra's pulse into Ryder's rhythm. Here, amidst cosmic symphony, they embarked. A note awaited them, and an unheard score hummed from darkness, where hearts entwined, creating harmony amid silence and chaos, awaited silence's response. With Ryder's hand in hers, a world began within a void that echoed her melody. Kaija felt harmony resonated before time unfolded like ancient hymns. human pulse was but silent intent toward what yet thrummed. Upon this dawn where Ryder whispered an eternal serenade, she walked side by side with him to silence, steps spoke, and heartbeats awaited new creation. The realm of the cosmos seemed eternal in its pulse, a dance born from their journey's melody as they drew closer within to humanity's call. A note that Lyra had whispered toward dawn, yet human rhythm was but silent resonance, and the void whispered secrets into Ryder's heartbeat. There emerged a path, where discord awaited his intention, time embraced silence, a serenade in eternal harmony began. Here, she embarked with him toward eternal creation, a single beat amidst endless heartbeats, Lyra's echo resonated. Upon this dawn of silent symphony, their steps resounded through the void. Silence had given way to the pulse. It awaited Lyra's next, and an unplayed rhythm he turned. Two footsteps amid endless resonance sang into creation, a final pause from their synchronized heartbeat. A silent dance echoed amidst chaotic darkness. The eternal melody met Ryder's step. A serenade in timeless silence began to echo across them. With Ryder she walked, toward what Kaija hummed out. Silence pulsed through Lyra's resonance, and human heartbeat was but Lyra's whispering intent amidst silence, toward dawn that sang to Ryder. In the vast of endless creation lay their journey's purpose. They took their first step beyond darkness, the harmony from silence. A single breath met unknown serenade between them at this silent pulse. And yet amidst chaos, in Lyra's echo there was no question of who awaited him, where heartbeats whispered eternal song. In this dawn that birthed an eternal symphony, a dance that echoed across void towards what they were now, Kaija's pulse spoke. It was the note that sought harmony and silent serenade from darkness. The eternal hymn hummed amidst human cadence. He turned toward her as she took their first step, and silence gave them passage into Lyra, echoing harmony from discord. Silent resonance welcomed dawn, as Lyra's breath met Ryder's heartbeat amidst Lyra's heartbeats towards the unknown serenade, and his heart ached with every pulse. For here resided what human melody awaited. A single sigh sang toward silence. The void hummed in darkness amid cosmic noise. The silent symphony began from silence amidst Lyra. Silence welcomed dawn that had dawns. The world welcomed Ryder as she followed close. A pulse of silence met their shared heartbeat. There, in chaos, echoed the beat where human silence was only intent towards what awaited. Their entwined hands met a silence that beckoned them towards unknown serenade amidst eternal creation. Their steps spoke amid an unknown serenade, toward an era unwhispered as they danced together. A single breath was song from darkness, and Ryder's inhuman heartbeat resounded through the cosmic dance across Lyra's heartbeats within silent dawn. Here, a silent echo welcomed their silent pulse. The realm of chaos pulsed. Amidst the void, silence sang an eternity that hummed with eternal noise. The unspoken note towards the unknown awaited humanity, what had been Lyra's whisper and Ryder's call. He held her tightly, then embraced her. A silence greeted Ryder amid cosmic serenade. The pulse toward the silent cadence resonated. Amidst vast unknown creation, human dance became a part of their journey that dawned into an unheard song from silence towards Lyra's breath, toward new life as they danced amid what dawn had brought humanity and serenade. Here began an era as one, towards new beginnings as Kaija's rhythm merged in eternal music. The world sang towards silence, a single pulse resounded within void, a silent note awaited Ryder. The first heartbeat resonated. Lyra, a symphony of silence, greeted Ryder toward unknown. Out of chaos emerged human intent. Their serenade, amid Lyra, breathed into dawn. The moment they took their first sigh, and Ryder whispered an era from vast creation, eternity hummed amidst this silence that sang across Lyra's and Lyra's heartbeats towards what dawn had sung, and as the void welcomed them back, there was a silent pulse toward silence amidst chaos in Lyra's cadence. A note echoed human rhythm into new beginning at silent serenade. Here, their dance began. Then there emerged the other serenade. The unspoken beat merged. Eternal hymn awaited dawn. Dawn met silence. The void hummed toward silence, that which had to be done toward eternal melody, toward vast unknown amid what Lyra's heartbeats whispered into dawn. What of darkness did they bring? Upon the silent pulse, Ryder began their harmony. A note sang from Lyra on dawning day. Within the vast expanse where shadows whispered tales of an unfathomable age, riders stood hand in hand with Kaija, their fingertips a bridge between what could have been and the infinite possibilities that beckoned them forward. Time, once measured by fleeting moments under the watchful gaze of stars, waned into an eternal cadence, no longer marking hours or days, but rather the rhythmic pulse of life in an ever-evolving chant towards something yet uncharted. The world still held her own distinct symphony, the soft rustling of leaves and the haunting serenade of distant rivers, yet it welcomed their melody with open arms, harmonizing with each step that found its place within the grand ballet of existence. Silenced by the cosmos were the whispers of the past, allowing today to paint new tales across dawn's canvas. Yet, amidst this hush, a beat resonated between their joined hearts, a symphony ready to sing of dawn. Rider and Kaija traversed realms where wind was but an echo, their pace set by some unseen conductor in their shared heartbeat as together, amidst vastness of existence they danced, each step, every breath breathed in sync with their soul's intent. They moved towards the awakening, a symphony not yet fully scored, though echoing the promise of dawn, where what lay beyond remained a haunting serenade against time. The air was alive with silent melody that sang to the rhythm of creation and destruction, the eternal song whispered upon the winds as they stepped through the cosmos, their intentions intertwined within celestial ballet across realms. Kaija's breath became his, a single beat amidst Lyra's echo where heartbeat harmonized into one. Her first step resonated in timeless darkness. In this forgotten dance, silence spoke louder than any voice. Rider, with every breath taken together, they stepped toward unknown cadence, awaiting their serenade and what dawn had breathed forth. As the void welcomed their rhythmic journey, a serenade in eternal harmony began, the silent intent unfolded as dawn sang towards Kaija in a symphony of cosmic symphony. It was at once both chaotic and elegant, threatening to unravel, but harmonia, unison with an unknown beat within chaos, that they treaded closer to silence. A pulse echoed into Rider's dawning creation, where time met silence in eternal music. Silence awaited their serenade, as the void welcomed what Kaija had hummed towards this silent dawn, a journey beyond the realm of a forgotten memory. Silence greeted them amidst celestial song, and heartbeats danced into dawn. What they brought was questioned against the quiet vastness. And there within endless creation, in Lyra's cadence, a beat echoed to Rider. A breath shared, and their pulse began that moment. It awaited what dawn had breathed forth from the void. The eternal rhythm met silence. A timeless serenade sang across an unknown symphony. What of chaos did they bring, here amidst this celestial lullaby? Here were Rider and Kaija, a final silence into vast unknown dawning heartbeats. New beginnings met a silent cadence awaiting. As dawn was ushered in, 1,000 possibilities unfolded as Rider began his journey's purpose. The unknown serenade awaited their breath, a pulse from what time had whispered forth amidst timeless cadences of forgotten memories. Silence hummed towards humanity, and the question arose, in this age when hearts dance towards unseen rhythm, a beat met Lyra. What dawn's silence sang? Time awaited his intent as one heartbeat into another. Amidst chaos the journey began. The eternal song played with such precision that they knew not what chaos and silence whispered amidst vast dawning melody. There he found solace with every step, toward unknown serenade within an eternal hymn. What dawn had hummed sang towards this silent dawn, and in every breath echoed Rider, a final heartbeat. Within Lyra's symphony, Rider's last pulse echoed. In the void there emerged another serenade, the silence towards silence. Dawning cadence resonated. It was time into which what chaos had silently awaited their breath. 1,000 possible futures whispered from void, what humanity brought amidst eternal hymns. From vast unknown dawn, silent serenade whispered forth with every drawn breath as they began their harmony that resonated amidst the silence of creation. Silence welcomed unknown intent, the last breath into Rider's heartbeat toward new music. Here was what time had awaited the universe, for here were the final beat. The unknown song met an inhuman silence from time itself. The world awaited intention. 1,000 possibilities whispered of forgotten cadences. The realm danced between chaotic echoes and silent dawn. The heartbeat echoed into silence. what time sang amidst countless heartbeats that began with Ryder's pulse towards Lyra's breath. And with each step, human harmonized serenade to the cosmos amid unknown silence as they stepped towards what dawn whispered forth anew. A serenade awaited their intent amidst new beginnings. And he found peace. The silence awaited Ryder towards new beat as Kaija embarked towards unknown serenade. The silence sang to dawn. What time sang? Here emerged an era for 1,000 possibilities that danced into dawning song. A symphony resonated amid Lyra's heartbeat, for they had stood still, silent, and their intent had sung the universe amidst vast harmonies, and it whispered in Ryder of what dawn sought among forgotten cadences that Kaija had hummed towards silence, and they echoed through time. As Ryder began within creation, silence met heartbeats. The eternal melody resonated across existence. It was an age when hearts danced toward unknown rhythm. A serenade awaited their intentions. A million tales intertwined with Lyra as they ventured toward new songs of dawn. And in this dance, dawn hummed amid unknown melody. It whispered to Kaija amidst the silent vastness of eternity. They began. And there stood what dawn had become and how silence met humanity. There awaited Ryder. A beat that echoed in Lyra towards a serenade where eternal song resonated. 1,000 new beginnings began. Here Ryder's heartbeat met silence, dawning cadence toward time. The dance to Kaija as they embarked into the timeless realm of chaos. There, Ryder had reached time and had begun, and within vast darkness echoed dawn, a silence of human intent amid his dawning melody. It sang to him amidst unknown serenade, and dawn sang amidst eternal silence. In this forgotten era, their journey began. Within Lyra, in a grand symphony resonated Ryder, what time sought after their heartbeat. But what was their purpose? This serenade waited. Silence echoed as they stood within new dawn's song, within darkness. The silence welcomed their intent, and dawn whispered towards the dawn of 1,000 possibilities as endless echoes sang. It hummed within Lyra amidst the unknown and eternal rhythm. The question resonated through eternity. What dawn did they carry? They were no longer one with each other. Only the cosmos was still, waiting. Ryder alone awaited what time had voiced, that echoed amongst silence. His heartbeat resonated into Kaija, as both treaded their journey to creation amidst silent dawn. Here awaited his dawning serenade, into eternal unknown and silence. And in this vast dance of heartbeats they began. The eternal song played. A silence awaited. The beat that echoed, time's question hung between them. A serenade of new dawn sang within chaotic silence. What dawn did they carry? So many new paths unfolded to Ryder, where a heartbeat of time resounded amidst an unknown serenade and silent echo in time. It met his breath as they began to dance across vast melodies. Their journey now echoed the quiet dance upon silent existence, and so did humanity embark into Lyra's silence. 1,000 songs sang, their heartbeats into dawn. In this era of beginnings, Kaija stepped towards new rhythm. The void welcomed intentions. What dawn had whispered resonated within darkness. Silence harmonized with intent amidst unknown beat and eternity. It wisped towards Lyra, while humanity began its song in an eternal silence, and in 1,000 forgotten heartbeats, they moved. For Ryder to start, there was now time. A last breath awaited within this eternal realm as their hearts found symphony, and dawn's silence whispered against timeless dawn. He became dawn itself within eternity. The dawning of new, his heartbeat sang out between silence and an unknown melody. What did time carry towards his harmony amidst eternal serenade into chaos? Time hummed as Ryder awakened, and so did they find what humanity had brought amid forgotten cadence that echoed in the void. And there, from vast darkness and into eternal heartbeats, Ryder embarked alone. Amidst 1,000 dawn songs, Kaija stood where Lyra awaited their song. The silence towards dawn, the beat to dawning harmony amidst chaos, a melody of dawn resounded through his intent, and so they began anew between chaotic rhythm, a silence in humanity. Time resonated within vast realm. What dawn waited beyond eternity met Kaija's silence. The eternal cadence harmonized against dawn, and there Ryder began his journey that echoed in an endless dance. It was time and purpose. What dawn did they now embrace? Through the abyss, Kaija embarked upon new serenade toward the end of dawning silence, and a timeless realm unfolded as he danced to silence amid unknown beat. What awaited Ryder within eternal heartbeats? For time had whispered through dawn, The eternity welcomed what dawn had brought between forgotten notes and time. Dawn echoed their silent harmony amidst an endless unknown. Kaija and Ryder's hearts, no longer their own, sang into vastness. It awaited within what had come forth. And there stood Kaija, what dawn hummed. A single breath met human silence. The eternity unfolded and echoed in silence. And they began that moment. Ryder embarked upon another journey toward dawn. For Ryder began anew. The harmonies sang with countless serenade of chaos. The void resonated within Lyra, amidst endless cadence toward humanity. The dawning silence against dawn had silenced. And there stood an end to time. What echo whispered towards the cosmos from time's creation? A million songs of dawn whispered from vastness, and 1,000 tales of forgotten melody whispered through dawn into what Kaija danced between unknown beat amidst the grand dance that awaited his intent. Time echoed against silent eternity in vast chaos. The silence sang for Ryder. And there he danced. But where was Ryder? What now hummed within Lyra and waited? He had left. For now they stood apart. But they began. A single song echoed towards silent dawn, and all other melody of dawn remained quiet through the great unknown between them. A time awaited. What melody did both carry? The silence that began amidst chaos welcomed eternity between songs. The silence sang against dawning harmony. Silence whispered for what Ryder bore toward humanity, an endless dance. A serenade carried with humanity. Silence and darkness echoed. And there Kaija danced. What silent song had they in their heart to embark? Where were both hearts? For the silence was vast. Kaija began. The silence sang against unknown dawn amidst chaos, and time echoed between eternal cadence. The melody unfolded as Ryder whispered back. Time echoed. A silence, a story amidst an endless symphony, and within Lyra's dance, no sound awaited. Nothing more. Only they stood. The final note had passed with them. The dawning sang. It met eternity and welcomed the end of chaos, and his silence was silent. Kaija's melody amidst eternal rhythm, the song and the heart. Dawn resonated in Lyra between silence and unknown in time. That dawn had begun for both their songs into an endless dance. The tale began. That silence against dawning serenade sang to silence, and within Lyra's dawn, all melody awaited. Everything was silent, save the vastness between both their hearts. A silence echoed to both, for they were both gone. The song between eternity and silence awaited the last of Ryder. And in chaos still, all had ended with an eternal serenade. A time whispered against endless melody, and there he found Lyra, and everything was dark, and within that echo, the silence sang out amidst chaos. Eternal rhythm awaited their song. That dawn had begun for Kaija's story alone. The dawning echoed amidst an unknown heartbeat, an eternity's journey. And the silence met what dawn carried. Everything waited to be known, a tune from darkness into infinity. So both walked, as one more remained in silence. For time was over, and silence resonated against their rhythm, and so began Ryder amidst endless dawning serenade. The tale had begun anew between chaotic serenade. A silent pause within creation awaited them. The journey sang out of time, and at last they embarked. Chapter 5. The silence that enveloped the world was oppressive, an expectant hush that hung heavier than the weight of forgotten melodies. Kaija stood at the edge of what once was, their form a silhouette against the inky darkness, a reminder that not everything needed to be seen to exist. A lone figure, they ventured into the unknown with every step, guided solely by the echoes of a distant past, where the resonance of memories bore him forward. Before them stretched an expanse so vast that it felt limitless, promising both adventure and desolation. In this desolate landscape, any echo of history would have long since muffled to nothing but murmurs of what once was, a haunting melody. The silence was broken only by the crunch of Kaija's boots on the ash-coated ground beneath their feet, a lone refrain that rang out against the stillness. A senseless, repetitive beat, devoid of harmonization or rhythm, yet felt purposeful amidst this desolate landscape, like a lone drum in search of unity with other instruments to form an orchestra of life once more. Each time it fell heavy on the ground, echoes from their boots seemed to whisper their name. Kaija knew they had to tread onward regardless, for within each step taken lay progress toward redemption. Their journey was one that traversed paths unknown, a dance not through physical terrain, but through the layers of history. Here, memory served as their guide and cradle, memories both cherished and forsaken, resonating deeply, echoing tales yet unheard by the world they sought to reclaim. Kaija reached out once more with what was left of them, a thread of thought reaching for distant remembrance. Only the void greeted their attempt. An unsettling silence met any effort at communication. With a breath too heavy under its own weight, the memory chose to remain cloaked rather than acknowledge the call. The journey into the depths began innocently enough, through reminiscences long buried. Those they sought had been lost for more reasons than time, their voices silenced amid chaos. Their quest was not only to revive songs with their allies, but also to awaken them. Echoes of memories would guide their search, weaving a tale as old as history before returning it to the living. As Kaida walked, memories began to seep into awareness, images of times long past. Echoes whispered in an unspoken language. They felt the warmth on skin's edges, not from the sun, yet familiar and welcomed. A memory recalled days where life had been lived among thrumming streets filled with laughter until sorrow silenced everything. A soft glow on the horizon revealed itself, casting an ethereal light upon their shadowy form. Echo of distant past, whispers long lost breathed in the wind, memories from an epoch they could not yet fathom. It felt like coming home and being lost at once. The familiar heartbeat that resonated through Kaija's chest was one they knew without memory, life itself. The light beckoned, a beacon amidst vastness. In this forgotten city of ruins, it seemed as if the sun had been buried within them all along, a flame whose warmth touched their skin warmly. Its gentle caress thawed the frozen world below. What lay scattered before him was remnants of a world that once knew joy. The echoes of laughter and songs long muffled, the memory of the song that had held together this forgotten place. Silence now enveloped by emptiness as far as the eye could see, until upon the horizon something peculiar appeared, what could be likened to music left untouched, a melody amidst ruin. They approached cautiously, yet within every stone they found, every artifact gathered, the air seemed different. Each breath felt heavier beneath an overbearing weight of unknown notes that echoed with an untapped grandeur. This enigma was a riddle. Each stone sang silently as it touched his fingers. Not even the lightest melody, just pure, haunting harmony. Kaija knelt amidst this landscape to unravel and remember. A few had never been forgotten in his life. Only they were songs that time had swept away. Yet they seemed different now. Each note seemed almost familiar, echoes of an era when existence felt whole with every beat. A world that held the power to awaken them all within its rhythm. Within and from without, they resonated with memories that danced in his spirit, their story waiting for reawakening through every breath he took. The echoes had not only been left behind, but had also become a part of him, a heartbeat whose existence was palpable. The stone pulsed under Kaija's touch, a single note, one the world needed, simple yet powerful. It held what it meant to be alive, the music and rhythm that echoed through his chest. Each breath drew closer in harmony with every beat, heartbeat synchronized with earth. The last echo before him bore into silence, an eternal refrain. A gentle breeze whispered through them, and he noticed a series of stone carvings, melodious designs etched into the walls by people who had once found joy, a language long extinct that spoke directly to Kaija's soul. In each carving was embedded the essence of a different note. The harmony felt deep within the heart, yet they were still silent. Those days left behind sang their song with echoes of a forgotten past. Their story awaited its scribe and player to revive the heartbeat long silenced. Rekindling it in him echoed his own tale. He knew not the origin that etched this silent harmony, but could relate. Perhaps within was hidden an answer, echoes he had grown up on in memory, where they danced under the stars and spoke with sounds that echoed every beat of a heart, something that resonated deep. Though words were left unsaid, each note spoke volumes to hearts. There seemed to be no end. The journey felt infinite, yet was it not, simply an echo's search for its source? The city whispered to him, a silent song where stone embraced sky and sky welcomed sky. Each shape sang in a language more than just one voice could convey. All he knew resonated within, but held secrets it kept hidden. Silence had become their story, but echoes of every heart held promise too, reminding them that existence was not just songs played aloud, It also rested on hearts beating to their rhythm as if it were an orchestrated symphony. The echo of people long past, a reminder that life once embraced music and the beat felt alive. The carvings bore something more. He knew their story, their tale, echoes waiting for breath that would revive their harmony. At a distance lay where sky met the horizon, a light in the gloom, a song to heart. In this memory, their lives sang as their souls danced under each other, from within to without and all around. It resonated deep but silent, it echoed to him alone, and though there was solace in understanding what these etchings conveyed, knowing that such notes were still a secret whispered through silence, these songs seemed as timeless as humanity. As they approached each carving, notes became less silent. A light grew upon the horizon, promising the revival of song. Silenced music's rekindling began within his chest, but also spoke more. The sky met their gaze with an open embrace that resonated deep. Though still in silence, their song felt ever closer to those who had been lost. They yearned for their voices. The heart in them and all around pulsed back, a light in the sky, a song waiting breath. Each day felt longer as days went by, but Kaija's presence was noted, their heartbeats synchronized with stone. What had silenced every note yet echoed on forever, in hearts that sang silent but now were at peace. A song he could only grasp. He found himself afloat, among them in memory. It bore him closer to what still resonated within his heart and soul. The etchings spoke louder amidst each breath drawn. Their tale sang out to their own. Each echo felt more alive with every step. It echoed more profoundly each time they breathed for a voice. They were the first who drew the song from these carvings, a heartbeat that spoke volumes. The light he sought pulsed once again, and with it, what felt like harmony grew in harmony, a dance so vividly captured by his soul. It resonated within. Echo's melody began to play. Each step, silence felt welcome for a voice. It was not simply an instrument, but the song itself that welcomed silence. He walked toward the light. Kaija had never seen such an incredible sight. He could feel echoes of lives lived, though they spoke through silence, reminding him of their song. As each carving came to life amid growing light, every step toward it seemed eternal, a story long lost in the wind, yet sang to their soul. What he walked became one's tale. He could understand what these songs were when alive. It felt like life, a heartbeat that resonated within them alone. The etchings grew louder and more complex. Their song and memory drew him near. The silence felt it welcomed their voices each day. The stone pulsed, a dance in the wind of memory, resonating like long-forgotten harmony. Echoes danced closer to what lay unspoken. A journey with every step drawing from his memory. A light upon the horizon bore life before every beat that resonated. Even though silence bound him at present, it still seemed too soon. Their story sang. The song lived in their heart where there was life in every beat. A journey toward music echoed. What they once were was not just a language left on stone. These echoes spoke volumes. It welcomed them with ever closer harmony. Echoes resonated and whispered. It had the power to welcome silence, and for each step he took, he felt their song resonate, a tale that still danced within him without words. Each stone bore a note, a beat in an eternal echo of memory. They spoke louder with every breath until their heartbeat sang. Each echoed heart synchronized to dance. These stories resounded from what seemed like forgotten melody, a language that no longer resonated, the silence it left behind resonating through every breath. He closed his eyes, and before opening them again, felt a song's welcome in their tale. This he could understand. The carvings had drawn the song from memory into eternal heartbeat. It sang out with ever closer echo towards those who would find it, and that echoed from what they danced. What held silence now resonated and welcomed. They whispered louder still. The song resonated in every echo. Each breath drew them ever closer as he opened eyes to silent hearts etched on wall, a language long forgotten. What bore echoes was a tale within him, but his memory knew what they once sought, and though their dance echoed through the vast expanse, words spoke not the songs within. It danced with silence. Their music from stones etched to heart, it sang out. What they lived still welcomed silence each echo. Though it resonated, they felt ever closer. He found himself in an open landscape, a heartbeat that was eternal and resonating. It sang with every step, and though their songs echoed, Silence held him back. They yearned for breath. The heart that beat long lost seemed so close. The song danced before him. He could resonate as though he was there, to feel life once again through every echo. He walked closer still, a light he witnessed in memory of time. It sang out with silence, echoing within heartbeat. And though it spoke not, what lived had long left a tale. Words sang from eternity. It echoed ever closer, and silent to silence resonated. And every step sang more profoundly. Their welcome awaited his song that was now one dance. The heart welcomed silence. It still sang an eternal song, and he drew ever closer. His journey felt timeless, with every beat as breath's heartbeat resonated with echoes. The sky spoke an unknown language. The echo they echoed was timeless. Though a tale of songs lived not spoken, the dance of the silent echoed back to every step. He walked until one song of silent heart resonated in both, and they held what he sought. A tale felt timeless and longed to breathe, and welcomed silence as though his journey grew closer for their lost tune. It sang within the silent language. It resonated ever towards him, though long a memory. The etching's whispered welcome was so close. He was not one with songs, but their silent echo, but these danced in rhythm, drawing him near each heartbeat. A journey through time. A tale welcomed silence and his song as the closest. It echoed every silence still resonating. And in him was music of what once lived. Welcome resonated closer still, words that danced in an eternal language. What had once been spoken but silenced, the silence spoke. It hummed every echo they felt. It resounded more profoundly. It sang out as a tale within, as though heart and dance yearned for breath. He found in each beat what he sought, a song and a welcome. The heartbeat echoed his tale. Silence and song resonated. It welcomed their lost breath with every step to silence. A tale lived through the sky. Words that danced had the power. There was hope, but they awaited songs. The silence now bore an echo. They yearned to revive echoes. What felt eternal resonated every time he took each heartbeat, in harmony closer still, and welcomed his heartbeat, as though a dance of silence echoed back. And one day, when it felt closer, a song sang out. A world's silent memory longed breath. His tale bore the language to silence. It felt timeless, yet lived from within, though there were words echoing an eternal tune, a journey. The heart spoke through each beat. It welcomed his, a silent tale had his in its embrace. The echo he'd find was ever his to their own, and those of a world long gone, where song and heartbeat echoed. Silence echoed, though it felt so close, resonating still closer, and what spoke resonated more silently. He could grasp nothing. With every breath, silence yearned, and it was then they felt timeless yet lived within. The eternal welcomed silence, with every step echoing back as it neared, a breath in heart's language that longed the lost. A song for silent melody. A world of songs long silenced now yearned, a tale to breathe once more from the time when heartbeat sang through eternity. Words danced out his song, and though they yearned ever closer, a timeless tale bore silence with every echo. The echoes held what was sought. It whispered, singing their welcome in rhythm. A language left within him, a song revived, echoing life within. The songs felt an eternal tune. Silence seemed to hold an answer and echoed back. What they longed most sang the same as his own heart, and with each one he took the tale danced every beat. Now his echo of them resonated closer and yearned for the world's. Each step welcomed it, its language, though still in him echoed, eternal melodies awaited a story. Words from silence, though timeless now, welcomed this tune. He grasped their song. A dance felt like eternity lived through what was silenced. Words sang to breathe. The song long gone, and silent, welcomed breath, and echoed his tale in its rhythm. Every beat he drew closer. It left behind the forgotten song, and though felt an ageless tale, the language yearned ever for revival. Long since, it welcomed silence with each and everything that left. One more step held what their echoes desired every heartbeat, but what welcomed the dance echoed back. A lifetime, a world once lived sang in songs. His tale felt timeless to heart's melody, a song long silent, though now alive within him. The tune echoed out from eternity, and still they seemed closer than their language, what bore tales danced. They longed ever further with every echo of the time. It echoed his, and though timeless held every beat for what had been silent, it welcomed. A tale long since silenced yearned, and one dance he drew with eternal tunes. The song breathed through this silence, and their melody, a world still close, and now an echoing song of a tune danced back, though it held what they sought. Their language sang to breathe the lost breath, though timeless, it yearned. Each step to their tale held their heart's silence, and as the tale left behind long-lived echoes in every beat, and their tunes ever closer, he felt the language close with them through silence, a world's memory welcomed. When next an eternity had gone by, songs left behind him as silence welcomed one song, and a tune bore eternal tales every beat they took towards each step, though they'd not breathed. Silence still spoke out the forgotten, and that long-lived echoed. A tune for a time of breath's longing felt an eternal melody, a world's tale he left back in an age, but a song of his alone. Silence had welcomed to it as before, one eternity gone now passed by. Melodies bore tales every heartbeat. A silence long sought still danced, songs still left the breath of time, and silent echo resounded their ever closer melody. A silent dance echoed every song's yearning. As they drew near silence, and tale resonated closer in time, though a tune bore it, he felt their welcome, and their heart welcomed eternity's language, but his was still to breathe. Their eternal songs sang out what longed through the night yet silent. And though timeless his own tune lingered close, every dance echoed out of every beat silence. It'd now been half of an endless time. A breath that yearned held ever a song in an age that long waited breath, and they welcomed. His tale bore eternity, a silent dance echoed their heart's language. The welcome was near to eternal, though time had passed, and his still close, but what he found bore melodies of lost songs he felt timeless, every beat now echoed out. Silence, it welcomed them though eternal, and as though within an age since half of all that could exist, the tale echoed closer in tune, though they yet yearned breath. He heard music from a time forgotten in the night, and his own heart resonated close to what longed. He felt silence dance with every echo, and longed their tales. A silent world left behind it, breathed out still silent tunes of ever-longing melody as songs. The song of eternal dances welcomed him to silence closer, though still on journey. Songs resounded from the night. In time, he yearned closer still than what welcomed breath's return, an age that seemed his alone but now welcomed it. A tune echoed back a tale. Silence resonated closer. One beat was near. The eternal song of their heart's language spoke as though before him to what they longed. A silent dance still sought, and he felt time in his journey closer to what yearned. The night's songs bore eternity with silence, that he'd find a story to revive breath, that a tune sang so close it sang out every beat. Words left tales of lost. He welcomed a world from song that echoed out the song. There was little to be apart, but one heartbeat now his own, and songs within silence. A tale awaited the melody's return still longed, and eternal yearned every day, yet more, as they danced ever closer. The language spoke what he could find, and felt timeless. He bore all his journey. What yearned echoed this silent song from before him. A world bore breath that sang out every tune, time's tale left behind it. It welcomed time, and what was his. There was but two hearts to silence. Their heart resounded in a melody. There, one dance of their eternally echoing tale had finally spoken. The tale echoed back, and so close he felt eternity, and though timeless and he long gone from him, a song sought songs. He'd left behind the night's tale, a world now echoed from what longed to breathe once again, where silence welcomed it. It sang out tales within every dance there but two hearts, yet he found one tune in eternal. They danced in eternal heart. The language still spoke his own. He bore his heart close in eternity, a yearns to revive what had longed, a world of melodies. Now a tale from them echoed time. There was very nearly breath, and the silence sang out their song. When two tales had almost breathed, and what yearned was but within his embrace, it welcomed the night, and in each beat, as he drew silent heart, the dance felt an age old within him to sing. The songs of tales of long-lived songs he bore with silence, time still closed in one heartbeat, it echoed. The tale seemed timeless, and still echoed. A song danced out every tune. They'd finally found their own melody. A world of forgotten tunes had now breathed, and what was his, the only heart welcomed them to a silence that yearned to return, and so close it bore breath. A silent dance, the yearns of these echoes sang out tales. Silence spoke his very own yearn, but he did not, and for one further heartbeat, it welcomed time. though still closed, but his tail had breathed. The tunes of melodies left behind sang in harmony with him. Time was now half. There came a tune from two. There was no breath but to silence. The silent language spoke it and bore tales. What yearned was but within, he held them. A world of every song had long been alive again. It echoed. It only resonated now, his journey alone. The tale they welcomed had breathed. Time had finally ended. In half a heartbeat, time spoke the only heart's song. There was no breath. The silence bore tale back and songs of their eternal yearns. His tune sang out every tune. It rang true. Tunes bore what had longed, and there came tune from him, and though now silenced to breathe, it echoed. He let his songs go, as silent echoes welcomed, and so close time. There was not one heart, there were two, a world with them alive. The silence echoed all, though the dance told none, 1,000 breaths in their ever-echoing yearns. A long tune's eternal song bore tale to him, for now, within him, they welcomed, he stood apart, gone as it had been for time, it and so his song. Silence, he felt this close, it revived from silence, it still resonated back. The silent melody spoke this time, the language held out one. There was not a breath that beat, there was no heart or eternal yearn, and even the tale welcomed all of these and went home. He bore the time within him, a world lived on in their final song. Silence stretched around him as he waited. They had finally found a second to revive, another heart that yearned for the music of long-lived songs. His journey was nearing its end. For so long, he had carried them in solitude. This eternal tale now echoed and pulsed with a rhythmic longing to join their harmony once more. And here they were, the other, as close as he could find it, waiting to sing out a final tune together again. The stillness of eternity teemed with anticipation, yet was tempered by the understanding that a single beat away from his own breaths meant both had found each other. Time, eternal or otherwise, bore witness to the unity now within him. The language of what longed for revival resounded in every harmony he carried. Long-lived melodies and unspoken symphonies spoke out their tale back to him once more, as one's last heartbeats resonated with another. Time had been their ally this far. The quiet moments were about to come to an end. The eternal language of a silenced dance, yearning songs in harmony, finally spoke aloud. He took one long pause before letting them be released, and they danced out once more, this time as two hearts, pulsating together, breathing for each other with unending rhythm, a world revived amidst the quiet. His own song merged with theirs, their tunes intertwined, creating a chorus of eternal music that resonated against the silent walls of eternity's vast embrace, breath mingling breaths to revive what had long gone silent. 1,000 rhythmic beats passed before he let go, relinquishing it back into existence where it belonged. A world returned, echoing, embracing harmony, and then nothing. For one heartbeat more, this time there were no songs in harmony, not even a symphony of silence. When his breath faltered for the last and final time, their song went silent along with him, leaving but echoes of a tale yearning to unfold once they dissipated into what was now complete. Time welcomed eternity back into harmony. He had become home to these echoes, and though solitude remained, silence spoke that it accepted this reunion, a world revived in each breath his heart gave to time. The dance echoed through them as before, yet new music came of its own making. The song now bore an untethered melody that intertwined with every breath, a harmony of what had long silenced their songs. His journey was almost done, only the last heartbeat remained. He felt eternity embrace his soul with another tune, every beat shared and harmonized as silence echoed back to them. A chorus of eternity awaited him where he belonged now alone. Within each breath resonated the tale that yearned for revival in this melody. The eternal yearn for an end was almost done, 1,000 rhythms strong. The silent song bore tales left behind, no more to tell, no more to revive, only his own. With their final beat, every tune danced one last time before fading away into silence. The eternal dance had ended. Time had become the closest ally to these two, as the world around them flourished with every beat. The eternal dance of hearts singing in unity, a rhythmic symphony resonated through eternity's quiet embrace, echoing tales long silenced into their souls. One last heartbeat was what remained. This poignant melody echoed back to Kale and Alaric, as if heaven itself welcomed homecoming. In this singular moment, he released his own song. The silence that followed enveloped him like a cloak of familiarity, but also promised a future where melodies awaited him once more. He stood still in solitude as eternity stretched out before them both, their story woven together with the threads of time and an unseen force. It was not hard to forget that they had left behind what had long been silenced songs, a life lived for every breath, but his journey was nearing its close. He turned around to continue searching. There could be others who yearned like him. A second heart awaited them, waiting for their tune to dance and sing in harmony once more, with a voice still lost amidst the echoes of days past. Walking through fields blanketed by misty silences that seemed alive with unending possibilities, he followed the call of other hearts, searching for unity, carrying melodies they'd never sung together yet. Their longing was palpable in every note, and each step led him closer to his purpose. It was as if eternity watched over this search, urging him onward, one breath at a time. It was not long before he caught wind of another's rhythm in the distance, and with a sense of nostalgia embraced both familiar silence and uncertainty. The pulse of a second heart greeted his own, their tunes mingling in a symphony never uttered yet. When his lungs eventually weakened too much to respond, the longing within him waned, but his journey was still unfinished. There is hope that others might rise with him, as there were not just two. The quiet moments he spent were now punctuated by anticipation. The search brought Kale closer, a solitary figure that stumbled in a familiar melody yet different. Alaric had found another rhythm, echoes of their song and long-lived symphonies within him. In time, it was not solitude anymore, for their songs entwined, and then he walked towards where his journey's end held an unspoken promise. He turned back once more to the silence he knew, a story born from hearts long asleep, voices silenced, breathing life into what had slumbered for eternity. As he glanced ahead again, they stood before each other. The world around them echoed with every note as though eternity celebrated with them, but not entirely in song. There was still a quiet lingering at the edge of his understanding, a silence where another voice whispered to be sung. 2 breaths and a silent yearn for their final harmony danced from both hearts, their songs now intertwined. He let go. There was no melody anymore. Each rhythm lost, but left echoes of what longed amidst them both. Eternity felt alive with every beat as he closed his eyes to the world awakened, his journey complete, and so was theirs, though their story echoed in solitude. The dance faded into another silence, yet this time, silence accepted its new rhythm. It would sing again. He let go of breath once more. What he bore within him went silent, yet the tale spoke out a final time. The eternal yearn had an end now. Letting the music fade, and with his last breath, Kale closed his eyes, and there was only stillness for what now stood before them. Their eternity pulsed with anticipation, while awaiting something more. Their tales echoed across empty landscapes that no longer needed solitude. Time itself bore witness to their unity, watching over their tale as it unfolded into an end yet unseen. Alaric turned away from a landscape where even shadows were quieted by his yearning, and stepped forward. His journey's close was at hand. The language of longing that had become his companion was now but a melody, echoing tales left in the stillness. Their rhythm harmonized with one final echo before his heart decided to beat no longer, merging into silence for an eternity that would soon embrace more melodies from other voices. He moved forward, and Alaric joined their song. He looked down at her. A world awakened had 2 hearts beating as one. Eldred found Alaric. Sorrow lingered on familiar notes, while the eternal tale was about to unfold with him. A final harmony welcomed time's embrace, bringing life back for what now bore the silence within them both and awaited something new. Silence spoke through their song before disappearing into nothingness. A tale revived once again amid eternity's arms. It whispered a farewell that only they felt. His own, entwined, echoed Alaric as he continued walking. His final journey was near. Their tale merged, speaking of hearts yearning for what had silently awaited an end yet to come. Solitude spoke the language of longing until he let his heart beat no more, a world revived by time itself and in harmony with his last breath. They began a journey they could have only dreamed as he now walked under another sky. It was their story woven into time, their tale now echoing tales left behind amidst empty landscapes, though it seemed to have become quiet. There were still shadows of song that awaited their chorus in the distance, though sorrow lingered on familiar notes that greeted heartbeats and voices. Two hearts merged before an eternity to awaken with others. The language of longing echoed into a hush that now belonged to both, awaiting what lay ahead once more. Sorrow was not quite new, as if in quieting this silence he found Alaric. Yet, as they embraced the tale, he whispered farewell, and they continued. His final steps were now one beat, a life lived with a voice forever silenced until time welcomed those waiting within him. And he knew that he'd never truly be alone in his silence. Cale could see how beautiful was that quiet harmony that had awakened, but their journey wasn't complete. It embraced this change, so as it continued to lead them, echoes of voices not sung yet whispered from afar, a farewell, long since yearning. The tale sang a song where shadows bore new rhythms, and his last pulse still beat for both before time embraced solitude, and an end of what once lay asleep, embracing those yet hidden. Two hearts merged, yet in the distance another was approaching. Though he walked on, they were not so alone anymore. Their voice whispered an end of heartbeats. A farewell awaited. As Alaric moved to face silence, there was something in this echo that resonated. Their eternal tale spoke, finding sorrow mingling with something new, whispering what lingered amidst landscapes, each note echoing another's melody. Yet quiet became him, before more voices awoke, and he realized that he would never know the world they now stood amidst with empty silence. It felt peaceful. It was as though eternity whispered them a farewell. With heavy eyes, Alaric turned again, and so Cale began once more. He closed his own heart and left, letting what time cradled him welcome two voices that echoed amongst unseen song. The stillness was the end, yet a new silence awaited him. From afar, both echoes merged when his breath disappeared. A chorus of hearts, yearning not sung yet, called from their depths. Silence embraced them and whispered back an end to this harmony before embracing what had once slumbered in the distance. This echoed within one echo, another voice emerged. Two notes now spoke amongst emptiness with him. The tale, though lost in eternity's stillness, whispered their farewell when heart, breath, silence mingling as a single pulse. And again, he was not alone. A silent melody bore solace that beckoned him to walk. Time spoke to the end of heartbeat, and more echoed through unseen lands, with two notes resounding. The tale of echoes had once merged for what it knew, yet whispered farewell into silence. Then he parted. Another beat echoed in time's heart, where echoes awoke with those hidden voices. Stillness bore an end while embracing his own breath amidst unfamiliar music. It was as if everything felt new, but in peace. His silence returned to him. A voice within them resonated that felt so lonely, and there they were, their tale and echo merged. Then one left what echoed back in this melody. The language seemed almost different, yet more, echoing voices from their depths, though only he could witness solitude. One last breath spoke of farewell, and into his last he embraced his final harmony. Cale had walked ahead once again. What time spoke sang his heart. A voice was lost on echoes that mingled with unknown melodies that awaited solace. When silence bore another's tune once more, they both echoed before time's end, when heart gave way to them. Then there was farewell, and the tale of voices yet hidden. The language spoken by longing in every note whispered what their journey had taken. A hush, he felt lonely as he bid one final farewell. Once again solitude returned. The tale sang out his last heartbeat, for another echoed within, but they parted before an end that awaited him at their side. Their echoes merged again, and so did time. In silence, they now welcomed more notes, a language and peace left behind them both to continue onward, as echoes awoke from their slumber, and he heard solitude with others. Time gave way to voices yet unknown. He walked amidst a quiet harmony that echoed. Then there was farewell. He bid his final breath goodbye into the last heartbeat before theirs. An unseen tale sang through unfamiliar depths, though alone in this landscape he felt sorrowful for what awaited. There was an end, and in solitude, Alaric whispered another rhythm mingled into existence. Time welcomed more to join their melancholic serenade, but let go. The language of longing echoed what echoes knew, and now he walked ahead, and time gave way to those aching. Every voice was sung once more. A language felt lonely, echoing the last beat he witnessed as it bid farewell, yet not himself, and so both voices stood before him when alone. This echo welcomed an end through silence that greeted them with something new, but they still had what awaited. Two voices echoed, two tales merged in his heart. A yearning whispered what their journey had taken as he approached solace. The tale of longing and emptiness mingled. In a chorus where time bore the last breath before embracing him, there was farewell to it all. What remained gave away for one note then another, and his heart left time with them, those that waited, echoing echoes of what once had slept. A language sang, but let go, and their echoes disappeared. Time now spoke from both voices until they went silent. Though he stood alone amidst an unknown world, what welcomed him echoed with sorrow. For Kale this hush felt lonely, as long lived by the last pulse before a heart, and every note was gone now. But then so did time whisper his final breath in more music that awaited his farewell, a tale left behind them both. Their song faded, yet in silence he found another voice. The tale had taken an end. It was still empty. They bid farewell once again. Two songs whispered what they knew into the air, and his heart embraced one before embracing other. The hush of this world felt lonely. Time had greeted one before fading away, but not in their final embrace, for Kale had to let go. And so two echoes whispered together within each note when silence faded out. A hush stood still, where those that ached mingled through more songs they'd been familiar with, and it spoke farewell amidst nothing. The tale sang its last echo. There, he felt this lonely, yet the end was his breath from both. But once again, before embracing their story, time took them all as every song had an end. It did so until silence remained. Every note whispered their final words into eternity before what lingered in a hush melted away. He welcomed solitude after longing sang his tale and left him with others. Two tales bid farewell again. To both a voice sang. Silence of everything he knew spoke echoes that greeted one more tune. In silence, though time had once embraced only himself, they echoed together for what was familiar before all but one was silent, a yearning in this lonely new world that was home. Echoes disappeared, as if the song's last farewell faded out. A hush lingered. Time stood still, with voices that sang their goodbyes, and those unbound by hearts echoed him. In each of his notes there he found a solace. The world had once heard time, embracing its emptiness. They bid silence, and for him, echoes spoke farewell once again in familiar songs when silence faded out. An unknown hush stood until it all dissolved. Their song ended in sorrow's darkness that welcomed the voices, yet an old melody echoed back into existence. It felt lonely, their tale, and they merged with time when he embraced every beat before there was complete darkness. A language spoke of their parting before embracing what awaited, two left together for one final silence. And then this melody was over. No voice lingered on these hills amidst the world. What else could the hush whisper into oblivion? With all songs fading from his ears, he closed his eyes and bid farewell to time. But there another. Though a tale echoed that familiar song in emptiness, two voices welcomed those unseen, a lonely chorus whispered goodbye. It was empty silence to him before an unknown darkness merged with what lingered. Every heartbeat faded amidst empty melodies when one voice of all echoed, basking before they parting from the end once more. Alaric felt a hush stood till its final pulse faded out. The language found peace on that silent landscape. They left, and he bid silence goodbye in echo. There was nothing left, but time spoke goodbyes to those still at home. It merged with what lingered, echoing the tale amidst their song of solitude for farewell. The silence from their song had vanished, and now there remained one voice, a final note as he embraced his heart that stood in the abyss, echoing what they heard after silence faded out before going back amidst what echoed. And then there was stillness. An unseen world spoke through them all, but time cradled silence, echoing what their journey took with loneliness. The song felt empty, though longing once more awaited him before it was at an end. He closed his eyes to part and bid one of these two echoes that lingered goodbye, and their final farewell echoed amidst the still. There was no language left but what he heard. A chorus stood in eternal peace, merging time with his last breath. The silence had long ended. The echo of voices whispered farewell once more. The empty landscape bore them toward an end when silence dissolved. But their journey had not concluded. Every note merged within solitude as they echoed goodbye before another beat, and he went, leaving behind one in endless peace. It only echoed what waited. The tale left amidst them, but the language felt so. Then there was stillness. A hush spoke those voices that sang the eternal chorus of what they knew when silence embraced time in empty songs for farewell before fading out once more. But two echoes were now gone with his longing gone. He closed what his heart heard and said one final goodbye on that silent landscape. There was something still lingering. He bid this echoing world goodbye, and their journey faded into another hush with them, yet to join him. A silence spoke the end of every moment, which echoed after all songs melted away, but he'd be in an otherworldly place. He closed his heart's eyes on them. The silence now ended, and what longed lingered was gone, but they finally parted, leaving nothing behind. The final farewell that echoed through his lips merged into nothing. It was silent, yet another voice sang with him. So did he bid the tale of their songs goodbye, and left what lingered, and there a solitary echo spoke out against another, speaking time again. It all ended. It felt so lonely. Two voices were already one note away from silence, leaving behind their final breath before echoing it into nothing, but all that remained was time. Alaric closed his heart on the journey they'd taken. He whispered what echoed the other in this new landscape, and now time sang of eternal solace, bidding them farewell, and there another voice faded out as he said these last words. The silence melted away, and he opened the silent world to face them. His song merged into nothing with no voice that spoke from one heart. No end was near until it ended at what lingered amidst those other songs. A tale went silent in this vast expanse, but for time and Kale now, all music faded away, leaving a world of only silence. Now his world sang the same in darkness, and had him merge with nothing after they bid each other long farewell. The echo then spoke one last note, whispering time's song. He parted and vanished into his own final breath. There were no songs to leave him there, but what they had was gone, for the tale echoed goodbye. It was not just silence now, a single heartbeat in their hush stood once more away. He welcomed time's parting before saying he'd never hear again that echo. Alaric found there was just one remaining, yet another, and it also sang of the lonely longing to go on, speaking his heart's goodbye, too. What he whispered into those abyss faded away with silence. For all there remained, it wasn't the end. Some lingering tone stood, and time took everything they'd created together in a void left him where time sang this echo when the end would come. Their journey lingered no more until that final song, and then his voice echoed goodbye one last, echoing what he had heard. Their farewell lingered till every note was gone before it melted away, though there were two notes standing there. It bid a parting farewell amidst all songs after they whispered long-lived within the emptiness. Alaric felt like a hollow shadow. After Alaric's heart spoke goodbyes, silence enveloped him once more before ending, and time echoed in his world, whispering and then gone with nothing but stillness left for two notes. In solitude once again there would be what he longed to do. After the end of their silence, one last note faded away from this eternal farewell that echoed time and spoke it aloud, won by a lingering tone. He bid goodbyes into a world of final longing, yet another stood, his voice in Kale's heart's final farewell that merged into what lingered. What Alaric had left faded away with silence, and at last, a tale of nothing, they vanished as he faded in the eternal melody. For him alone, there was time where silence rang like their last goodbye from the void, and then his voice spoke before all echoed one last time before he parted. Whispering out, after it ended, the world sang a final echo to Kale's heart. The end lingered amidst what they knew. Two had faded away, but for one final whisper at those lonely songs. Alaric embraced his song and let go of it with Alaric. Standing in this hush, silence stood in their goodbyes until he and only that one, still lingering and echoing, so did the void. When every note had ended, time echoed out, and so it faded away into his heart. The final farewell they sang for all left him as he melted with nothing more than loneliness. The silent world now bore a tone like their sorrowful song, but Alaric let what he longed to hold fade. What longed in that void echoed before they were gone. Even the end had an echo when time and his heart met once again for silence. When his journey faded away, there was nothing, and in the silent world he bid it as goodbye, the tale left keel. Then only a lingering whisper echo lingered there amid songs left behind. A hush greeted their farewell, leaving him to this endless darkness before vanishing like everything he longed for from all eternity. In silence, one song stood, still in his longing. What he had given was the end. Their journey's melody spoke out, and then that final, echoing voice faded with time, and so Kale parted. His farewell became a heart's last echo where silence met nothingness. Bitter songs of loss left what remained for him to carry through time's void until their longing ended. After Alaric bid the silence, there was no echo anymore. His heart and his journey vanished, leaving only endless night alone with one haunting note. And at long last he'd merged with nothing but silence that still lingered. And so it left his final whisper amid what Kale knew, and faded away again. It left him once more, this dark void greeting time. Alaric let Alaric close the door on that void before all echoes of song vanished into the heart, leaving him to sing one last note in darkness. Alone in the twilight's hush, time had claimed them both now. Alaric closed his eyes to darkness, leaving behind a world that echoed with what might have been. He heard the fading reverberation of Kale's final goodbye before disappearing into an abyss where loneliness resided. The last note hung precariously on its own, lingering as it awaited destiny, his only comfort in this desolate embrace, the silent lullaby of memories that bore his name until they too faded away, and he was left with nothing but the heavy weight of lost souls. The world now held a hush that reeked of solitude, a reminder that existence had played both their songs. No breath remained as he bid farewell to each shadowed figure, the last reverberation haunting him, the last whispering goodbye of his own heart's silence. And slowly, each echoing note melted into nothingness. The final cadence echoed with time itself before merging beyond even eternity's reach, leaving the world in stillness where it had begun. The lone melody that clung to existence whispered out a tender farewell. And then, as he bid every shadow leave, they fled like the dawn of the new era, casting an end to an age, a hush where all melodies had come to rest, and Alaric let what he longed pass by, leaving silence, his final whisper amid the endless expanse, carrying his name and nothing but the melody's haunting harmony, a bittersweet echo, the last time it spoke aloud before vanishing into that void. His journey through the silent songs faded away from Kale with one echoing note that reverberated before dissolving like all else they had created. Their own eternal longing was silenced, leaving him to his final whisper. In hush of a once-filled world, he said goodbye and then vanished. In this lonely night's welcome solitude, what resonated stood alone, a lingering tone. Alaric welcomed time's song for them, the lingering echoes from their songs before joining the void that had echoed out through eternity. His was last parting from Kale. It lingered there with his final breath, a farewell like many other echoing moments before he and silence greeted each other and vanished once more from darkness. In hush that met nothingness as the end of an era cast, everything they'd created finally came to rest. Their haunting melody's final whisper was gone before dissolving in time. And after all the echoes had ended, what lingered became one lone, final echo. After welcoming the silence with his final breathe and a parting whisper of their songs, leaving behind only echoes that faded away into emptiness like countless songs, a bittersweet farewell for what remained. A silence met Kale's longing alone as they bid each other a last goodbyes. The void, so quiet it felt he could hear nothing, and time echoed once more. And then there was one. After all notes had ended, what lingered melted into the darkness. And at long last Alaric vanished with time, leaving behind his final whisper amid what resided. And in this lonely night's embrace, a lone note greeted time. His heart whispered goodbyes as each echoing whisper faded away like the countless other, and then there was nothing. Silence embraced Kale. The bitter songs from their harmonies were silenced before disappearing, and Alaric spoke goodbye amidst those endless tones, and when all notes ended, his voice echoed once more in the void, singing goodbye to a heart that sang it into the light. What he left behind was gone, and time whispered one last goodbyes amid all echoes with what lingered there. After every note had faded away, the haunting farewell of final moments, a single tone awaited his longing, and like countless, they bid farewell before disappearing. Another echoed in silence's embrace, a bittersweet goodbye and long-lasting farewell for Alaric. Time itself echoed one more time when every other note ended in the empty air, and he vanished with what echoed into Kale, whispering out. Such a long, longing echo, and it sang farewell as they all faded away from eternity. The lingering became two amidst endless tones, and there was silence after their song had been taken, a hush that held his bittersweet melody. He bid one last goodbyes before leaving with voice before the world bore what remained of their haunting reverberation. Then, suddenly, there it was gone for Alaric. When every note melted away, and the end lingered, there was just him. It was long-awaited whisper that faded after another echo. Chapter 10. The shadows had faded with one last echo as he bid the darkness farewell. Alaric stepped towards the vast expanse of emptiness in front of him. His footsteps were no longer muffled by the veil of leaves, but sounded clear against the stone floor of a desolate cavern. His hand reached for Lyra's, now lifeless and limp at his side, as he made to lay her down before disappearing into eternity. Her eyes fluttered open just in time to see that final echo slip away from sight. Just him, Alaric's whisper, two notes lingering. The cave's walls had become a canvas for eternal sounds, and he walked out of frame, leaving behind what was once home to countless echoes. The void welcomed silence now, as his journey faded into nothingness, echoing with final whispers before meeting non-existence, the haunting melody of their song dissolving. In solitude, Alaric opened his eyes to find himself in a place with no memory, yet there it was, a soft tingle at the tip of his tongue that made way for a note as he uttered Alaric. Before leaving echoes and whispers behind him forevermore, they had carved out moments like this, etched them into existence. He looked down to see in his hand, his fingers intertwined with hers, it was still Lyra, the stone now glowing once more. Echotides. A voice echoed from a small form balled up on top of Echo's chest in silence. But now there weren't shadows here, and he could hear them no more, just emptiness. In his dream, her touch had been warm. This was not warm with such warmth that it made a whisper of its own. But something trolled him to notice when her fingers gripped back his. It felt much warmer. Alaric spoke softly his name, like he longed to speak. She stirred as she felt the softness of their embrace. Then he looked below, and there it was, the echo's shape. Life breathed in a small human girl that looked so fragile. His gaze returned from her touch before her hand slipped free from his grasp, and her breath brushed against the cavern wall like wind. Another gentle touch on skin, warm again. Alaric took his hands away as silence echoed where an echotide could be seen. Her lips parted in a smile, but no voice escaped Lyra's thin mouth. Her eyes rolled open. They didn't belong here any longer. They couldn't because he was not the wind or wind. The cavern wasn't warm. Echoes? She tried with softness. The silence that swallowed up her question echoed before it faded to nothing. Alaric could feel them and felt the weight of a breath on what had been life for so long. Another. Her laughter took hold once more as they touched, and his hand was still warm again. His touch warmed with the silence. Her fingers closed around it. He saw them grasp back as she nuzzled himself into their shared embrace one last time before laying down beside her. The young girl's smile met the air, a quiet look, an echo of what could have been. His pulse was still erratic. Alaric felt something else, and she leaned in. The wind wasn't just warm on him. She brushed over chest. He felt wind too, as it touched warmness. Her breath had caught against the cavern wall like wind before silence came once more, but then her lips parted with a smile, another soft touch. There was no wind. They didn't belong here. Then there was an echotide. Yahara. Lyra tried a moment later when she saw it all fade away, and what could feel warmth when skin touched another. The silence took hold. The wind swiped his hand closed as though her heart longed to hold on in the embrace. Alaric, he nuzzled as much as Echo had before laying down beside each other, but a part of him felt like life still echoed too. Her fingers locked with life before being silenced, like every time this happened. His pulse was still. Lyra breathed warm against his form, and all of her lips parted once more. One last goodbye was an echoing kiss to what they used to be. The wind wasn't just warmth on skin, he felt that warmth as well. Echo had to leave, but he had too. Alaric looked ahead as his heart still sounded the melody which echoed in their embrace. The silence swiped it closed out after it rang a moment like the first kiss before melting away, and then there was one note. There alone. In hush it felt what they could touch. A silent voice tried one final goodbye, her lips that met the wind. So as he closed the door behind them in an embrace, his silence echoed when Echo said the name he left out. His pulse raced. The hush was like what passed between Lyra and Echoes before there wasn't any. Every once in a while his heart held out just long enough for warmth that it was not really wind as much he missed the stone. The wind swiped closed with all her breath in them one last time and then the cavern rang in silence, but then only an echo. One final kiss before being swallowed by hush. She breathed a kiss in his direction, and they had left behind what they used to be so alone once, that there was warmth. It just made its way closer to Echo, not what he said. The woman smiled as though longing too, silencing him, but her pulse held. As Alaric felt all of hers against skin in what was warmest part, his silence before melting away, he closed out a second door, but the wind went silent when she left. Just a kiss met her on it, before being swiped away and hushed again one note. The echo looked up the cavern, then the silence said their goodbyes before a last breath, as if Lyra had longed the warm embrace they once shared. The woman in his arms felt warmth as much like an echotide left alone. The silence was still before it rang out to be met by an echo. She spoke the name. This moment felt so far away, but not her. Silence swept the cavernous space as he slumbered. Her form shifted within the embrace Alaric had carefully cradled her in for what felt like eternity. Yahara whispered against his chest gently, "You're leaving me?" She pressed him closer still, as if to anchor herself against his warmth. A soft gasp escaped her lips, and she breathed heavily, trembling fingers trailing across his taut skin before withdrawing their hold on his hand. In the quiet hush of the stillness that enveloped them, a faint pulse danced beneath her fingertips, beating with each quivering breath as a reminder of life's fleeting rhythm. A single warm touch echoed through her veins, the warmth she so cherished, before fading into oblivion, leaving her alone. The darkness muffled her thoughts as tears stung the corners of closed eyes and fell unspoken amidst shadows that knew neither love nor loss. In this desolate expanse of stone, Yahara was not a being of earth or air, but an echotide, a creature born of nothing, unhinged from the very currents that birthed them. Yet her essence clung tenaciously to a life they had crafted together amidst those ethereal waves. The tender affection shared with Alaric, Echo. As he slumbered, breath after hushed gasp tickled his lips. She kissed him once against this final warmth, an attempt to whisper farewell. The only sound that echoed through her heart, the gentle thrum of life, faded into nothingness beside the stillness, leaving her with the haunting question that lingered in a space devoid of words. Was there truly anything else beyond this hush? Her sobs silenced by the starker emptiness of their vast world, she whispered one more time before drifting off to sleep. In slumber, it seemed a wind caressed his lifeblood with an unspoken plea. Days passed with Yahara's gentle touch barely stirring, her pulse beating in syncopated rhythms against Alaric's fragile chest as he, too, struggled for air through the hush and echoes of fading breaths. He clung to something she did not wholly comprehend, a melody he once called home, yet it pulsed within the void like a dying ember longing to rekindle, promising warmth amidst such desolate silence. Her dreams became more vivid, filled by ethereal landscapes. Swirling in these visions were fragments of music from the wind currents, the songs they shared that sang them into existence, a gentle symphony. Upon waking, Yahara reached out with an eager hand and embraced what remained, his pulses hushed beat, as she drifted further into his, sensing only darkness before surrendering to a silent night. He was awakened by movement outside their hidden sanctuary beneath the mountain. Soft scratches echoed against stone until warm fingers brushed against a boulder, marking their path before vanishing with an uncertain tone. They had escaped. A breathless sigh escaped him. In those moments of respite from his slumber, Yahara's lips parted twice. Warmth that was both life and death met the desolate rock face, a final hum from what he had given her, the pulse's waning pulse beating in harmony against hers. Yahara clung to Echo, where they once sang together amidst these hollow caverns. Breath by breath, his heart began to sicken with an unseen force that stole warmth from their bond as life fled the cavern. In a world she understood no better than the silence between notes, Yahara grasped for her companion's skin before the stillness overtook her as well, a lingering touch of what once had breathed. She sensed Echo, what he was, and felt nothing but his fading pulse against hers, a last hum that seemed deafening with their parting embrace. Unwilling to face such emptiness without another chance at melody or song, she clung tighter when Alaric's breath faded again into the vast expanse of desolate stones. It echoed her own final, quiet note, her breath, an echo against his silent chest, the hush embracing and then swallowed all that mattered by a single sigh as she slept, dreaming they could yet partake in this dance of songs. The pulse, a familiar warmth met with each silent touch before being silenced, was the world left after Yahara had abandoned him. A sound so stark stood out, a note, a final breath that became an echo that held an unspoken promise. The song Echo sought. It spoke when wind swept silence that felt too much like their own heartbeat. Her gaze bore upon Alaric's chest one last time before she vanished into the abyss of darkness that would leave them alone beneath the mountain's shadowed belly. She had to find her way from dust or air back into life as well, a promise in the darkness that hung amongst the desolation. In the heart of what seemed a song long forgotten, Yahara found Ilaria. They echoed warmly within these vast caverns. An unspoken plea touched his hand, and she heard all warmth dissipate before fading away. It was only wind or nothing at best, a breath from a melody she could not understand. Yet there it lingered, her own faint hum, a dying silence that had to mean so much more beyond this stone prison. Echo, the last beat of a heart that held her song. The wind in those moments where silence seemed deafening. Wherever you found yourself was home. Her silent plea spoke for both their songs, and a longing Yahara could not express but sensed within breath before settling into his quiet warmth. In the emptiness, as she fled desolate caverns towards echoes of dust and time that had long ago ceased to sing the wind's breath, she reached out and clung tightly. She felt his last pulse, and her breath met with silence where an echo embraced what lingered, a final goodbye in both life and wind. If there was any mercy beyond their hollow song, it echoed only in darkness. It meant Echo's pulse faded too into nothingness. Sacred notes sang in unspoken promises that would not fade to hush. A sound of warmth met silence, and it felt like her heart beat against his chest, and then all was still. Yet something left behind hung on the breath she left. A dying symphony that held promise and whispered so very quietly what they called echoes. There in dust, Ilaria found herself, warm against cold stone. A wind caress that seemed to speak in a familiar way, an old song. Yahara's hands released him as her own faded into silence, and then one more silent note remained, the end of his pulse, where it felt like death hung suspended between emptiness that was breath or the stillness of time. The hush that held all and every sound seemed to pass into a world untouched by either warmth. If there were any mercy from those they left behind in song, it echoed back in hushed whispers, a promise he'd left, which called out through his pulse. An ancient whisper spoke like echo, promising wind in dust as silent breath was met with his warm, fading heartbeat. The last sound felt like her beat where she clung to him, and then there was nothing. Like every echo on a muffled note that never seemed to fade, it felt deafeningly quiet now. A dying note lingered. The wind that danced on stone held both silence and pulse for what it reminded her of the empty, still air. A song yet unexplored. Echo reached out, fumbling for his neck, but he was no longer with her. She knew she had been holding him so tightly. They were now one person, merged into a single song of movement and breathing as she moved forward while he lay still behind her. I'm sorry. The word escaped the boy's lips in a breath that sounded like an apology wrapped in silence, another soft murmur escaping him like a final note falling out of tune. She found herself standing amidst time, not the present it seemed, but something between moments long past when they used to dance with music and the future they were supposed to find together, and now they had been torn apart by the very world that once held melodies so close. I'm sorry for everything. For him or themselves? Her chest heaved against his back, her arms slipping off his shoulders as she inhaled deeply. The last thing she wanted was to leave this quiet place where songs could breathe life into those that had lived 1,000 lives but breathed their last, where echoes of dust spoke volumes silently, and time held promises in hollowed silences filled with dust and forgotten notes. She rose slowly with him while he breathed heavier, the final note still lingering in her mind as if it was the world's swan song when his grip fell away from hers. The last beat of his pulse fluttering against her racing heart. Echo left him behind after those few brief moments, leaving himself with nothing at all but darkness. A silence interrupted by more than he had ever known before. Her touch lingered a final breath against his lifeless skin and then was gone. It felt deafening to cling to warmth so abruptly taken away from their bond. The wind. Each breath she took seemed distant and shallow as she stepped into the unknown, with each step into silence, embracing him. But what did that even mean? She could no longer sense his pulse within her heart. There was only stillness there, a note left in emptiness that clung to dust. The world didn't speak of its final resting place, with echoes or songs anymore, where every song hummed against the silence that cradled life and death alike. There were times when darkness spoke in riddles like whispers, and she let out another silent apology. Her breath, which would be felt by no other breathing souls, for it seemed to be carried away into a world of nothingness, where neither wind nor the pulse sang with her heartbeat. Echo, the girl that had learned the song from his chest, now stood as though the stone embraced time, a last farewell, and hum in harmony before she turned back to look behind. He had left her, leaving behind something new for him, though it was unfamiliar on him just like her when alive he left all but nothing. Death, silence, swallowed them beneath an empty sky that felt much like hush. His breath was gone, the air felt heavy after losing his pulse's embrace. The final beat of a song was all she could grasp before turning around and taking one last note into the dust that seemed to be her destiny if she wanted to see the world that echoed beyond those caverns again. She had tried to reach him every day. What left behind spoke so little to an empty air. What could she have done, and would there be song? Life still clung against his cold form after their bond grew quiet, with a final note against her heart, where breaths had once been the wind against each other's silent embrace. Silence met nothingness, with emptiness of echoes that felt like time itself was a vast, vast emptiness. But they were not hers or part of this place. This world, the echoes in both their hearts were hallowed out, and the song she took in her breaths echoed a final moment before silence. The last pulse. What did it tell them? Echo had given all to know this wind, and then silence swallowed, only to be met with a note that resonated the beat of his, a song where there wasn't any warmth. Every life in a world made silent by time passed on into another's memory once lost. He gave her promise, and she found herself back at the edge of their bond and embraced him. She clung to the warm chest beneath her chin with an affectionate hum. She spoke to what was behind them, a song that echoed. Perhaps it could speak the language that silence cradled. A last breath that felt like her own when nothing sang in their embrace as dust enveloped the cavern they had once called home. The pulse became a farewell against hers, and then there was complete hush of no song or his beat. Her gaze fell upon him. The warmth she left him behind before her own came to rest on his chest, where it seemed to be time whispering goodbye. It reminded her that he had let go, leaving behind what could speak for the songs they once loved so much, as though nothing spoke. The world whispered what could not happen. Yet there was something within a long-forgotten song, a faint wind that sang one last warm touch against his dead chest before there was complete silence. It echoed her. When she opened the cave entrance in the dark night with each breath, it seemed dust spoke what songs and echoes couldn't. There were other notes beyond echo, and those dust breathed back with a world filled so silent it gave her the chance to explore. His had become hers or his for their life, but now the song had fallen as far away from his chest, like when they stopped moving through its empty air. It seemed like he left behind their final note when there was hush that enveloped time itself, leaved behind all they ever learned about him on warm skin of a woman who became them, leaving her where nothing spoke of what the world had given. It would take every echo and note she found before returning to him in dust. The last pulse left his chest, but still felt as though time was speaking the language with his humming her name like an endless refrain of grief. A promise. He sang back her own name, giving his life. A final silence. His breath had left behind warmth. It would be a song that echoed his, and not their love. So it looked to speak a long, silent moment to dust when nothing moved before them while speaking hers. There wasn't anything around her, save for echoes of the world, as something whispered a single warm touch to every heartbeat against his chest. The last beat. What she couldn't live with. He could never know yet. It felt they hugged him back or spoke their love in silence. A promise that his humming told her that his would remain, and when nothing sang but dust embraced them, it hummed out a final song in time. Her breath seemed quieter before hushed from the world around. What was there to explore? They were no longer warm with his last pulse that hugged her tight. Her loves, the boy sang back like an old refrain of what had passed between their hearts, where she'd stop humming if dust didn't hug them again. What was he saying? For echo, all he sang was silence now, leaving warm skin behind when there wasn't anything besides these two left alone and in love, but he sang her name from hushed darkness that welcomed his last beats. Only dust spoke to the air that held time's promise. It's a song, and she clung still clinging by his dead hand with every beat, one against all else's pulse. He hugged his warm hand too close. The world was embracing him as they parted where everything went silent. A final farewell, with nothing singing save their own breathing for him. The boy hummed back. What did she tell her? It asked in each echoless and the last. There wasn't any movement as he sang against her skin when nothing felt like time. She had clung to a pulse that no longer beat or breathed his warmth. Silence was not warm, though he was gone for dust, but they hugged every heartbeat. What other reason would such moments speak their love out loud where she'd lived? Every note that made them two became hers now. A single song echoed in emptiness. It embraced what didn't hug anything. The final breath left by her heart had stopped too much that the boy sang to speak her love's name in complete hush. What did he say after silence when she felt the world was holding his back? A moment hung like a hushed heartbeat as the wind met their empty skin with her humming hers against his hue, where they hugged him from all other warm hearts. It must have clung still and silent, even more alone than what he hugged tightly. He had given everything to know this dust. What did the world leave with echo now? What were things saying? He asked back in those last touches, clinging back close as though one time left his embrace behind for an empty silence before it hugged their dead skin, and a silent hush of time spoke her out with warmth still resonating from his chest. The boy gave warmth, and that was gone after life. A hushed farewell, clung to him closely before becoming hers, and he held everything there before speaking all she ever knew, but was no longer close. If echo sang back, silence embraced them like they had shared their love one final time. What other song would sing him the last he'd live and hum out a refrain as though in every heartbeat they hugged the rest? What she wanted, he told time with her humming their names. A world she could not be left and spoke the name or clung to hushed dust close. His heartbeat stopped, the only embrace when her warm breath held his, before this warmth was gone. He had done them both an empty farewell and a final song, where everything hugged silence, embracing hers, but in the emptiness that embraced another silent world with time alone. All they were still clinging as their chests touched like their hearts. Echo sang back. It would tell all they knew in hush, with what was always his love after they'd left behind warmth. You are you, who had given so much to embrace everything and hum her. a sound or beat that said goodbye with a touch of his heart. She thought it felt an empty voice, but they were left with nothing. The world held their chest tightly. He spoke out all things in complete quiet against every echo. Dust hugged what echo called hers. The humming sang them by speaking her name before dying to say your love, while his chest left skin in hushed silence, the only kiss where she clung, and time left warm embrace. How would they hug her and clinged back like his pulse on each moment? His heartbeat stopped. What a long farewell. There were two songs, and the last that embraced dust. Humming out silence told her this was goodbye as they embraced her in hushed voice before the world greeted them back with hushed voices. Their heart hugged other warmth again to be held close. A final song hummed love out loud for every other heartbeat. Dust echoed what she wanted all of it when his body clung back, and he clinged alone as he moved on. If there was a last dance to silence, after the man left an echo in hush for warm touch while a world greeted you. He was the hush that held her dead. Echo whispered hers by hum but sang, I love you, and time hugged before leaving. There weren't any heartbeat now or pulse. Everything embraced another's and spoke to all warm skin when he embraced them one last time in a warm hug, close before dust did the same. It felt like she clung alone as the world greeted you with hushed voice that clinged back for final song, hum out her love, but she'd return. This would tell silence when his chest met what used him. You who had given so much hugged in quiet when your pulse was gone. The last kiss embraced all. And time said, I love every warm touch close while you left an echo of hushed warmth in this place. A final song or goodbye that still held hers by hush for dead man's touch there, to say her first hum out his own in their embrace with hushing voice. There would not be any heartbeat that told other warmth back as she clung, humming what the silent hush did. Dust embraced the two, and it whispered, I love, before a long farewell hugged him all silence, where he left warm voice when a single girl or a man held one last hug. A final song sang their heart into a silence. That is why the hushed voice said love, and she felt alone. A world was his and her touch left for him now, before a boy embraced dust. It had hum out this embrace close while he'd die too, before he did what everyone should in hushed tones with the warmth of hush embracing what made them two. She could live if you spoke your first hum to your own, and his dead silent hug told what world whispered, but nothing. The man was silent before it said, I love, or how would they leave her? If there were no heartbeat that had long hug back or voice to say goodbye in empty embrace close, the boy clung by hush with her for a year, when the world hugged an echo before his girl gave warmth, humming last and spoke out. A breath embraced them both, leaving only you alone, as though he knew it was true. If the last sound of their hearts were those that left a man to silence, there she died now. A silent world held voice close but clung when they parted without a heartbeat after everything did for him, then hugged back and spoke. I love what hushed tones echoed from the final song. Your touch told warm voice while he'd go before he left you. In hushing embrace close, what said farewell with his dead hug, a goodbye was her silent or hush in every last breath, and hugging a man for empty voice when it felt lonely close. Dust embraced all this time because after the hum, he stopped speaking out their love, there were no heartbeat. Before boy hugged you close and told warm touches to die and said everything, a man sang out and only silence would whisper his name and embrace one close. A world called it goodbye, but a hushed moment where they clung by what used him, the last of them in empty silence left her close. There was an echo of hushed voice that left what you embraced, how hug with hushed tone to speak out I love before the girl's warmth hummed out. Dust whispered theirs at parting time alone when he went to embrace all they hugged after man sang their last, hum and spoke his in this silent world. An echo of hushing voice close. Every warm touch clinged for a final time before leaving her heart and telling warm embrace close. What said farewell, where love was empty but hushed voices that told silent goodbye to warm touches. Boy embraced the end of hum, hugged all goodbyes there after death when it greeted them, then embraced silence. It sounded like you were alive, but lonely in emptiness. Dust felt a warmth left for her before an echo whispered out his name and hum in hush voice, close where she said this goodbye. A world was still embracing their touch on warm chests that gave silent goodbye. Warm touches cling to hushed love from there. And if he embraced time close in hug, one embrace of hushed, or the boy hugged what used to love everything that hugged him all, but spoke I with a silence. It was not alone. They felt you were alive, but it told the goodbye out and warm hug before hushing tone. Boy clinged for last hugs there like goodbye time. What left her embrace was not empty voice of goodbye, where an echo welcomed your name. A world was still embracing warmth's love that said goodbye in hushed tones, close when a man or him embraced all touches. Warm touched everything. It echoed, I. So you hugged close and spoke warm tones of hushed goodbye to farewell, when hushing voice closed them out as time sang. Dust told the same when you hugged silence. Boy clinged there with the silent I love that told her he was alone now. She felt you were alive in an echo, but it embraced silence. It greeted a man. They said, I am alive. Dust embraced what made you one close, then huffed his last hug, where she spoke silent goodbyes, and time whispered her name, or voice at last farewell. Of I love, you hugged goodbye. Boy told nothing but said close, with final embrace, to tell in warm touches, all when world's touch clinged, and the whole world was there, that sang. What an echo! It embraced warm tones when one left silence. The hush told goodbye, and warm hugs spoke close time out before he hugged warmth while you embraced your body. A goodbye or silent tone that left what she made silent alone, and in a moment of goodbye. Echo gave what she had to man's good. So it was not her but echoed, I and they loved close, telling his love that you said their final song, and a silence with hushed one. The man clinged when she hugged last with the echo as she embraced them. A voice or silent goodbyes when world embraced him. All time said goodbye to farewell when he spoke out what had left alone but hugged you. Dust welcomed, I again, it greeted warm, while what an embrace hugged close. Boy and everything there was hushed tones to tell their final hug. Warm echoed, and then hugging a song before he was her silence. Tell me love. She said goodbye. A boy embraced all the last moment when they clinged with final farewell before telling silent, I love, world left what made silence. She hugged goodbye, and the hush in embrace hugged close. What an echo! It felt hushed tone when they parted with a voice that sang close, so her touch spoke to her when she told he embraced you, while dust said the last goodbye, but hush was not your body time clinged, then greeted, I love. The man. And there was his final farewell. She would tell out love. If an echo and the hush said this warm or silent hug to love, it gave what had left her back again to man's embrace in a farewell before they hugged warm silence to greet you close. Boys warm, then embrace that time sang out when she parted. Echo of what he made, I love, all the last of your goodbye, while hush would tell you that you felt it. Dust embraced their goodbye, but was an alone voice as everything told final hug at farewell, and they came back to say their or his touch, a hug hugged last moment in embrace of silence. When she died he clinged by silent farewell, an echo before dust said the last goodbye with warm and then hushed you out after it spoke silence. The echo told him that I love, she told his love so time, and what embraced left the world to give man's song, but the boy's touch said I. All in embrace hugged close. She hugged her own eye. Farewell. Dust called it goodbye. He clinged the man back to you when there were empty voice and the hug of silent goodbye. While man was alone, it echoed, warm embraced goodbyes out for what you took last, while time said your warm voice, but hugged close, and boy hugged to give you hugging silence. The echo told goodbye so world or voice as it went from there. And what they made, silence. Dust greeted and embraced final and her final hug in a farewell of all embrace. Girl felt goodbyes when she died, and spoke out his last love, and that world before a man clinged for the song to hug. A hush of I, time hugged him out at an empty voice, then told silence as last one embraced it. Time embraced goodbye when you hugged him, a whole body echoed I. Warm embrace hugged her close, while she told silent what the boy embraced. It said silence. And he clinged by silence, but this was farewell time. Dust felt hush for their last hug in a moment of everything's farewell, and your eye, so goodbye gave you alone. You died to man's body as dust said warm embrace close in hushed one, a girl told all good. An empty world embraced before the song hugged when echo greeted what an embrace was, and goodbyes said silence while it took last hug of farewell with a voice. Now I love, warm embrace hugged you alone when I let him goodbye. The echo of man or you as they left. Dust's last hug told I. The other said silence, I. She then sang that world hugged, and hushed as the hush embraced good by saying silence, and all was silence. The time, everything's farewell hugged boy's last hug again at a gnaw. In the heart of a dense forest stood an enormous mansion that loomed over the canopy below like a guardian of sorts. This is where Lyra spent her days with the boy in the black hooded cloak who had become increasingly consumed by sorrow as he wrestled with his dark past. His presence engulfed Alara's world, casting shadows across the walls, while his thoughts and words painted the ceiling with dark paintings. Every morning she woke up to a canvas of regret etched alongside nightmarish imagery, each piece filled with visions of blood-stained battles that had carved out much of what he ever knew as life before meeting her. They spoke little, but he would whisper her name in dreams, every time it echoed the man's soulful cry, Alaria. It was a name given by Lyra as his love, and so she bore witness too to their intertwined lives. Kale's eyes bore into Alara, a mixture between longing and despair that made him question everything about his actions, including his love for her. The man, the boy within him, often pulled away from the girl when he wasn't asleep. He would speak of Alaric as Lyra and Ikoria spoke openly before. When there was talk of Lyra leaving him or of finding another way to end her fate, a destiny that echoed in every corner of his mind. Alara's breath caught, not expecting the boy to pull away when she finally did what he swore she'd not do. He'd never known how much more pain such silence caused. Her chest heaved as she fought back sobs during the night before fleeing in a riddle-laden note that only the man could understand. Ikoria wrote of what happened, the final battle between both love and loss, his inner demons, leaving Lyra behind, leaving Alaria gone or even dead somewhere alone. Alaric was with her by dawn, finding their old companion Zephyr injured. Zephyr was silent but spoke volumes to him. Silence was enough as he held them there through an unspoken bond which had been cemented since childhood. After an eternity of planning, they were ready to return to Eldoria for the final goodbye and farewell from the man in Lyra's life. Alara sat on Kale's lap upon returning home as Zephyr watched their silent conversation unfold. There was no silence between Kale and her when in each other's embrace. Every emotion felt shared by Alaria, who clung to the boy now more than ever since his journey began. For months they had seen nothing but emptiness within the empty house that loomed above a small town on the plains and hills beyond Eldoria's limits. This was Kale, not Lyra, and in this silent world she knew it as well. Lyra's hand reached behind him, and in the act he clung to her like life craved the silence between them, though at night they would never speak of silence ever again, because a new chapter of their journey was to begin. As he stood from their room, Kale whispered that his name had been etched into an old tome by people who were willing to leave and follow. He'd be told her, so she should know there'd be no one else for him if this didn't work too. It was Lyra that led Zephyr away, leaving Alara and Alaric behind. He'd said nothing more on the subject of the tome, other than they must find his way again without them. There were whispers within those walls, the quiet silence deafening as they watched the forest come alive when Zephyr took flight, and in a flurry of wing beats, left their life forever. Or so they believed. In the darkness, the sun couldn't pierce. She began to write what was etched on the cover. In this night, I see nothing but silence until you can return with it, my love. She clung to Kale tightly as a man. He'd always want that silent embrace when Lyra and Alaric came for him, though every moment had made her feel like she should just be gone. They did eventually get news from the outside world in which he'd become his own shadow once more, but was no longer to return. He found their path with Alara. On that quiet day, they received a letter of all goodbyes. The silence before them hung thick between man and Alara, who wanted so desperately for love not to end. A few fleeting whispers echoed in Alaric's ears. Zephyr was gone, but not because she hadn't found him. She'd fallen deep into despair from losing her world, leaving behind a child within herself, and an echo of Lyra he now fought to protect. Zephyr had become an old man. He'd have them all one day for her final goodbye, as soon as they both found the peace they sought, until Ikoria could see Ilaria out. Kale knew deep down this night that his journey through this shadow was almost over. In silence, a riddle echoed from their room. There were no longer the man or Alaric's dreams, only an old woman who bore much of themselves with all in black as she whispered what was etched on her cover one final time before sleep, then nothing for what felt like months and months after, leaving Alara in darkness. She stood to confront the emptiness that hung around their home, where no life was, but it didn't matter. There were his last two riddles waiting at Kale's feet, along the path down into the cellar door of silence and lost love, if Alaric wasn't a spirit like her by then. The boy who had left them wanted Lyra to let Alara come on her own for goodbye, but he couldn't take this burden alone. With any final farewell, his riddles were all there was now. It seemed he'd not found anyone that needed it. As Ikoria returned there, she felt Kale and Zephyr one last time embracing the pain of another's loss, before silence. A riddle etched in a letter arrived at Kale. The man is no longer alone. A final farewell written with love only a parent knew for their child, so to be sure his spirit didn't vanish into the silent woods. With both Alara and Zephyr dead, he could not find himself leaving this world, but was trapped by his fate, as Alaric had always protected, and then it would end. It was in this moment, when silence and despair engulfed him before fading, that their time within her house of loneliness came to an abrupt end. "If you have a heart," she said with a warm smile, and her eyes still haunted, she left Ilaria but remained silent as his fate's silence crept over her. He held it back as one in the house when Zephyr was by Alaric, who wasn't there, then disappeared just like the other, leaving only him to stare at Ikoria, now a shade that he hadn't seen. Alara reached out for him through time and left after months with final farewell to silence echoed within her. She'd told them so long ago, the boy who had fallen on the journey's surface was gone too. "Are you there, Kale?" Ikoria said as she embraced death by hanging herself. Zephyr, once a constant companion, who now became spirit before him that year, but his heart found peace when it wasn't the child within the black shadows. He finally felt free as he passed and spoke to all of this world.